right, let's get it. Okay, so here we are, another Sunday talking about becoming sister wives. Is your boy James from My Take on Reality, and
I'm Jenny from Senior Perspective.
there you go, there you go. See now, what else could you want on a Sunday? It's everything right there. That's
Right
everything.
there, wrapped in a bow.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. Very excited to join you all. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate you for
Mhm.
hanging out with us. I know it's getting ready to start that weekly grind, so it's always nice to have everybody get together and unwind and relax and discuss some foolishness on a
Yeah.
on Sunday night. This week we are going to be going over celebrity, talking about Mary and her craziness. There is a lot. I think Mary is one of the more elusive sister wives, I think, just because she doesn't really put herself out there to where she's really kind of nailing down exactly where she's coming from.
Mhm.
She's not really taking a whole lot of positions in the book. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
she she does have some things that she said in there to kind of perk my ears up, and maybe not for the reason why uh, they would think. And when they
Mhm.
wrote the book, I'm sure it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and this will get them charged up.
Yeah.
So we'll have that discussion, and we might even circle back because, like I said last week, Jenny had some things going on, and we might touch back on some of the things we talked about with regard to Robin's chapter of family that we talked about last week. So you know, it should be good. It should be good,
Yes, it will definitely be good.
all right? So
I
what
find
was
it
your
very. Let me just stay for the beginning. The whole
no? Go ahead.
concept that they're one season into the show when they're writing this book, and they have an entire quarter of the book to dedicate to celebrity. I just find hysterical and self-serving.
Right, right. And even kind of put the stamp on it. Like, let's keep in mind this book was actually written only in like the second season, like around the second between second and third season of the show. So for them, like now, if they came out with a book and were like, yeah, for our celebrity and how we struggle with being notarized, our notoriety and the positives and negatives of being on social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it would make a lot more sense. But in your first 2 years, for you
Yeah.
to claim that you're a celebrity, a little bit of a reach. A little bit of a reach.
Oh, yeah, 100% agree. Whose idea was it that this is going to be the topic that we're going to cover? And of course, it kind of doesn't even really cover celeb. That's the ironic part about it. It's like if I had to come up with a topic for this, celebrity would be probably the 20th word that I would have
Right.
to really cover this because they really weren't celebrities at the time. So, I mean, it's interesting though. I found the
Yeah.
chapter interesting.
Right. Right. I agree. I think that like if you are brainstorming and you're trying to come up with chapters, like a lot of times when you try to do the creative thing, you're trying to brainstorm and come up with all ideas. Like there are no bad ideas in a brainstorm space. So you
Right.
just writing stuff down on paper. You
Right.
would write down celebrity, but that would be one of the ones that you would immediately X out. Like, okay, yeah, that's
First one that gets crossed off.
right, right. Right
For
in the Pufferstocking.
many reasons.
Right.
You're not really celebrities. It seems like the smallest little things, a nice hotel room, all of a sudden they're celebrities.
Right, right, right. They put us up in a hotel. We met Oprah. We're rich now. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
ain't get in trouble.
Yep.
This ain't get in trouble.
Absolutely. 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 Well,
Oh, here's
nonetheless, it's a good chapter in terms of trying to look at the AUB faith through the eyes of Mary, and it's most interesting if it's true. Because I was reading here, like, does she really feel this? Or is this part of the show line that we're serving people in terms of how
right.
oppressed we are? I don't know. It's very interesting. It'd be fun to talk through it because I really don't
Yeah.
make of her.
Yeah, well, let's jump right into it because one of the things that as I was reading through the chapter, one of the things that really stuck out to me, what Jenny was even saying just now in describing the chapter is kind of the what I've termed or at least coined, and I've heard coined before, the oppression Olympics, where you try to create a scenario or an environment where you're being somehow held down, repressed, or somebody is, holding you down or oppressing you in some kind of way, and that kind of makes you a victim. But at the same time, you want to sit there and say, "I'm not a victim," even though you spent the last 20 minutes talking about how you're being victimized. So
Mhm.
it's a little weird on that front,
Mhm.
especially being as though the only thing that she cites as like because her to be very clear, the victimology she's talking about is her participation in polygamy. I'm a polygamist and everybody hates me because I'm a polygamist. They can't stand me. I'm so oppressed. Oh my goodness, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But then the only example she really presents of oppression of polygamy that she provides is her losing her job. And that's not about polygamy, that's about the TV show and the things that are being revealed on the show. So it has nothing to really to do with like the fact that you're a sister wife. And that's just the feeling I had. So what are your thoughts on
No, I agree with that completely. Here they've been it's so confusing to me to buy into the narrative of them being such victims because of their choice of living polygamy because she had lived polygamy her whole life.
it?
And and it was also a choice, and Janelle had been living polygamy for a significant period of time, and all of them for a significant period of time, Christine as well. Christine's the only one who I can kind of understand where she comes from because of the family history, and so I feel like the other sister wives and Cody are latching onto Christine's grandfather's history and
Right,
juxtaposing that onto their modern day current situation today, and thus saying because this happened 2 generations ago, even though it hasn't happened in the past couple decades, it is therefore going to happen to us again, or
right.
is very likely possibly going to happen. So we're going to live in a constant state of fear, which I do believe they kind of did because they sacrificed their children within this fear. I mean, making them pick up and move, not being able to talk to their kids. Like, I mean, unless you really believed you were in the fear, that's just full on mean parenting and terrible
Hmm.
parenting. So they would have had to buy into it. But I just wonder why? Why do we keep going back to, well, this happened 20 some years ago? Like there's
Right.
polygamists all around now. You live in a community that's largely polygamous in polygamous homes. Obviously, the authorities are very aware that you're all polygamists around this
Right.
general area, around the state and whatnot, and nothing's happened to anybody before. I mean, things were barely happening to people who were doing horrible things in polygamy. So
Right.
people who are just doing it right and minding their own business, why are you so convinced that it was all going to shut down? I mean, it would just, in my opinion, look so bad on the police and the law enforcement for them to come traipsing, especially ever since Waco, for them to come traipsing
Hmm.
in and break up that family that's really done nothing wrong. Because if we're going to say,
Right.
oh, well, they broke the law of polygamy, well, who hasn't in that state? 50% of
Right.
them do.
Right.
Like that's kind of one of those stupid things. It's like saying, well, yeah, breaking the law if you go over the speed limit. Well, yeah, okay. But most people do. So,
Right. Right.
you'll look a fool if you get a ticket, going 60 and a 55, like it's just sort of like, what's going on, especially if cameras are going to be filming it. You're gonna be like, what's up with that officer? Like, who doesn't go 60 and a 55? So this is where I'm coming from with all of this, but I'm reading through the chapter and thinking she seems to really believe that this was a terrible threat, which in some ways makes me very sad for them. I just don't know where that hype all came from. I have to say, I feel like Cody's the one that amplified it for everyone because he just seems the most irrational out of all of them. Christine most justified, but I think Cody's the one that pushed the narrative. And I think Christine wanting to always please Cody and try to get more in his favor because she always knew she kind of wasn't the favorite wife, probably went along with it. And it became a storyline for her in their family, even outside of the show, that like, yeah, I'm the one that, I have the personal experience and you're right, Cody, and we'll do this together kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, we can kind of go through it and come up with specific lines and different things she said in here, but I teetered on, gosh, I feel really sorry for him that they really believe this because it seems a little delusional to me. And oh my gosh, stop being a victim, shut up, grow up.
Right.
And like, I don't need to hear it anymore. Stop the whining. You're fine. You're gonna be fine.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, because the weird thing is that I can see a universe, and this is kind of where I'm at. One, I agree with you. I think that if, like, just from a bigger perspective, looking at this politically, because when we're talking about the district attorney making a decision that he's going to prosecute this particular family, this family who has been embraced by a large segment of the reality watching America, some of which may be in Utah. And for you to come in and break that particular family up is a lot. And it would cost you heavily politically, especially when it's exposed, as you had mentioned, when you talk about Warren Jeff's community. You talk about I know I keep throwing this family out, the Kingston. Like you talk about these sects and these different organizations, and these are just the two I'm going to mention here. There are others that you could also throw into that bucket. And for you to go in and break up this normal looking family who it just seems as though the biggest crime they committed at most is delusion. And that's what their lawyer probably would argue, is that they aren't guilty of bigamy. They aren't guilty of any real crime other than they are deluding themselves into saying that they're married or that they have some legal tie to each other. Yeah. They can be boyfriend and girlfriend all they want. There's baby daddies running around all over the place in America, and nobody is locking them up just because they have more than one woman pregnant at a time and they have a bunch of kids with a bunch of different baby moms, or the ladies walking around with ADD, all different daddies for their kids. Nobody's getting arrested. It's just the way it is. And for you to target them would be a political nightmare. Yes. So I think there's that. But I will say on the other side, I think that Cody does feed into it, but I think that it's a larger communal problem because it is a source or a way for them to be able to maintain control over a lot of the ladies. Because you cut off a valuable resource by telling them that the police are not on your side. If you go to the cops and you tell them that I'm mistreating you, that I'm abusing you financially, or I'm doing anything to the kids or whatever the case may be, then you're going to jail. Like one of the things Cody said most notably, and this is why I'm not discounting that Cody is buying into this or help to protect her. Spit it out, James. Help to perpetuate this notion was that if you remember in season 17, when Christine was talking about leaving in the first, I believe it was the first episode, what did Cody say? If you leave and you go to an attorney, then they're going to take the kids. They're going to take the kids from them. And they become the owners of the children. So you'll lose. And knowing Christine's character, at least from the show, I don't know her personally. She didn't come by my house this morning for brunch. But knowing her from the show, she's the parent who, if she loses the kid, she loses the family, that will affect her the most. So you hit her where it's important to. And
Mhm.
you tell her that if she goes to the police, you go to the authorities, they're not going to be on your side. Not only are they not going to protect you, they're going to prosecute you.
Yeah.
And I think that it feeds into the whole notion of, was their fear rational? No. Was their fear realistic? No. But could they rationally say, based on the reasons that they're provided, that they're afraid that this is going to happen? I think that the church, as well as the members of the church, as well as the people within the smaller families, give reason or rise to that belief. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It's the way the men can keep polygamy going because it
Yeah,
also
yeah.
it keeps it secretive, it keeps it insular, it also makes it we're special. Nobody understands us, not even law enforcement. So we have each
Mm,
other's back and all for one and all and one for all in our small little community. And what doesn't kill us will make us stronger. And so this is just proof. This persecution is proof that that we're on the right path, which
mm,
is the
right.
opposite of what you would think. Because that's an argument I had in my head a lot as I was reading this chapter, thinking, if it's all so wrong legally, can we
Mm,
take a step back and say, possibly we might be wrong about this one tenet of our faith? We have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but maybe just this one part of it is incorrect, which admittedly is the part that makes them the AUB and breaks them off from the LDS church. But I
right.
mean, to objectively look at it, that was kind of the frustrating part for me too. And we've talked about this in the past on this channel before, the notion that I understand where Christine and even Meri being raised, although Meri was 10 years old. I mean, you're already in double digits, but okay, let's just the majority of their lives as children, they're being raised, even if Meri didn't really live it. Believing this faith and believing that polygamy is good and right and just and moral and holy and a calling and the right thing, and they're on the right side of theology in this situation because as
Mm,
children you believe what your parents teach you. I mean, that's what parenting is, right? It's taking a spoiled little selfish being and molding it into something and letting it become something that is better. But in teaching them all your values and your morals and trying to take out the negative selfish part of them and grow them into um, uh, good good citizens and good beings and all that, it comes that point in their teens and definitely in their 20s when you got to let it go free. Like let
mm,
them go ahead and try different things out. I mean, that kind of is the beauty of the Amish. As much criticism as the Amish get, they've got Rumspringa. Like they're very insular too. They're very close-minded about the outside world being wrong and being against, very similar, and being against law enforcement. I mean, they are against the whole government. They're against medical care. I mean, they're even more extreme in that way. And even being more extreme, they say, okay, here's a year. Is it a year or 2 years where the kids in their late teens get to go be English,
mm,
go dress like the English, go live like the English, do absolutely everything you want with the English, see if it's for you. And at the end of this period of time, then you make a decision and a commitment at that. Well, they're not given that opportunity here. So I do understand
right.
the where they're coming from in terms of this is what my parents taught me, and I love my parents and I respect my parents, and therefore I'm going to follow along with this too. But these women are not 17, 18, 20, and they're writing this story. And when they're writing these words in the book now, these are grown women who've had the
Right.
time to look and reflect and As Mary said, be in the world, because they didn't live in one of those isolated communities. They were kind of out in the world, and yet they still really held on tight to this philosophy that everyone is out to get them. The paranoia is palpable in this chapter.
Yeah, it's well because I think that the whole thing is that by keeping them paranoid, you keep them scared. By keeping them scared, you keep them controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the major things is that if you find yourself in a situation where you're outnumbered, it's very important that you capture people's minds and imaginations,
Mm.
because where you can't physically intimidate people, or or more to the point, you're not going to be around 100% of the time. I'm
Mm.
not going to be with you all the time, but you're going to be with you all the time. And if I can control you in how you think and perceive the world, then it's easier for me to control and manipulate you in the situation.
Yeah.
And when you have like abusive situations or relationships, one of the key things, and this is something that I've been talking to my daughter and to my son about since they were little, is that in any of those types of relationships, the very foundation of it is secrecy. And the very foundation of it is isolation. So you keep them isolated and you keep it secret. What happens with us is between us. And you can't share it with the outside world, because the outside world is dangerous and they're against us. So we are not only, you not only have to rely on me, but we're in this thing together.
Yeah.
And whatever happens to you happens to me, and whatever happens to me happens to you. And by me tying myself to you, my fate to your fate,
Mhm.
when they talk about the family getting broke up, they're not saying like, okay, yeah, they're going to come lock dad up, they're going to come lock Cody up and take him off and put him in jail. The thing that they use is they're going to come get dad and take away the provider. Then they're going to split the entire family up, and then none of the kids will be able to talk to one another. So
Right.
it's not that I'm going to be punished. I'm not looking out for me. I'm looking out for you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the power in that whole, like, you need to be afraid. Don't talk to the cops because it's us against them. And if they come and find out about us, then you're going to be in trouble. And it's always spinning around to that one point, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And-
I think going forward too, I don't think it's in Mary's chapter. I think going forward it was Christine's chapter shocked me when I was reading that one live, because she admitted in her chapter this whole narrative that they've been talking about and verbalizing on the show about how the whole family would get broken up, the kids would get broken up. This happened in the past, therefore it would happen again. And
Mhm.
listening, and I'm jumping ahead, so I really shouldn't do this, but just because you brought it up, I just remember when I was reading it live going, what? This is not what they've been saying. Christine basically said, first of all, we're talking about her grandfather. So we're not even talking about her father.
Right.
We're talking about her grandfather. But her grandfather was put in prison, it seems like kind of overnight, like it was just a
Right.
couple days. And then the women chose to separate and go into different states and all. I this whole time thought the police forced them, or somebody in law enforcement forced them to all live separately. That I swear they even came out and said that.
Mm.
But in her thing. So once I read that, that was like another one of these, huh? So now all of a sudden, it's again not seeming quite as a pervasive, imminent danger as they keep presenting it on the show. Grandpa went
Right.
to jail for a couple days. Then he was released, and the wives all
Hmm.
chose, out of self protection, to just split up, which included in some cases going to different states. Now, mind you, if they're living on a border, there was a lot of kind of moving between Wyoming and Idaho, Utah, um, Arizona, just that whole area there, just kind of splitting
Right.
up and moving around. So by moving to another state, it could be moving an hour away. So, it's hard for me. Like, there's no real explanation of what that looked like. So having that in the back of my mind as I'm reading this, I'm again in another situation of, why is it that we are not just looking at this logically? But then I tell myself, why are we not looking at this logically? It's the Brown family. That's why we're not
Of
looking
course,
at
you're not looking at it logically.
Yes, we're gonna, as we go, where we go, we go all. It's like, the mind think also kind of goes in the family. Like, what I think, we all will think. And I think
Right.
that this is a threat, and therefore we are all going to go. Kind of like how, what day are we going to leave, on Monday or on Tuesday? It's Cody finally just makes the final decision, and the wife's like, well, I don't really understand why, because Robin wants to do that. What's going on here? And you go, Cody, I made a decision. Okay. In the end,
Right.
fine. We'll acquiesce to you. So I think that's part of it, is just that it would be interesting if he would have written a chapter regarding this to hear his perspective, because I am sure it would be the most inflamed out of all of the people in terms of the threat, the persecution, the fear, and like you said, they were grown up with it. But I'm just like, where did logic come in here?
Right.
I mean, I feel like we all have those points in our lives where we're like, okay, this is the faith I was raised in. Here are the tenets of the faith. I question this little piece here. I need to look into this more. Like, I still embrace this part of it, but I'm not so sure about this and this. And, like I felt like there was none of that. It was all or nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I think that, like, with Cody, we did see a little bit of that, but it was in season, I want to say like season 6 or 7. It was around the time when they were living in Las Vegas. And it was the time when, ironically, when Leon came out and they were going to do the march, and Cody all of a sudden wanted to get political, because I think that, in my perspective, my estimation of what I saw, I think that Cody kind of got the political fever, where he thought that he had the opportunity to run for political office, because I keep forgetting that brother's name, the bald head dude. What is his name? Somebody in the chat's probably going had the 3 wives, and 2 of them were sisters, and one of them was the cousin.
Not the Dargers.
The Dargers.
Okay.
Darger. So when he was running for office, and he was setting himself up to run for mayor, Cody got in his mind that he also was going to run for office. And he started in with the whole political speech, and that's where, my soul cries for freedom. When am I going to have my freedom and not be oppressed any longer? And he's doing like he's trying to do like call on the spirit of Thomas Jefferson, and pick up the quill and write these great political speeches, but it was asinine. But the whole thing was that he was saying how he was being oppressed and how he couldn't take advantage of the American dream. Robin had said in season 2, episode 1, I believe it was, when they were going to Vegas, this isn't the America that I grew up in. This isn't America. Like they're being oppressed. Like, you're getting everything you wanted, because if you think about where they were to where they landed, they went from living in a house with 3 people, 3 families basically living under one roof. Robin is living around the corner in a rental. Pretty nice house, the one she was in, but they go to Vegas, and they weren't looking for reasonable homes, like quaint homes where they could move and salvage and save money. They moved into like 2,000 and 3,000 square foot homes that they were renting initially. And so they weren't suffering. So am I to believe that you guys moving to Vegas was your pilgrimage of suffrage, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a better financial situation and you left? Like, I just, it just doesn't ring true to me. But again, I think that it falls on a lot of that, oh no, you have to feel bad for me because I have all this going on and all these people are against me. And I dare to say that if my assessment is accurate, because it works so well in the church and in the community, you fall victim to the your victories lead to your defeat. You start to feel like this will work across the board. So when you tell that lie to your wives, hey, it works like gangbusters. You tell that lie to each other in the community, you all agree, and it sounds brilliant when you say it. The problem is when you start to try to tell that lie to people who are not a part of your religion, are not a part of your community, it doesn't make sense. Like the story they're telling about their oppression, I think that some of them have been oppressed and maybe hear like some wild stuff about people talking to them. Absolutely, I can see that. People
Mhm.
can be jerks. Do I think that they are one of the oppressed people in the United States? No, I don't. I just
Mm-mm.
don't think that.
No, people just don't
I
care.
don't believe it. Right,
Yeah,
right,
I'm sorry, but people don't care about you guys as much as you think that they care about you
right,
guys.
right,
It's just the truth of it. Out of all the oppressed groups, you're the bottom. You're the bottom of the barrel.
right,
And so it's really hard to buy into that narrative. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
right.
And
I
it's
can see you not get invited to some dinner parties. Like
right.
I mean, let's not get it twisted. You might be left out of some barbecues, some parties, and some dinner parties where
Mhm.
people are like, look, I don't want. But it's kind of in the same realm of kink, and not to be dismissive, but for most people who are not in the religion or do not see it as a faith, it would just be a form of kink.
Mhm.
Like you have two wives, and this guy over here, he likes men coming over, bulls coming over, knocking down his wife, and he gets to watch cuckold him. This guy over here, him and his buddy, he passed his wife around to his buddy. This woman over here passed her husband around to her girlfriends.
Yeah.
Like it's just a form of kick. And those people wouldn't be invited to the dinner party either.
Right.
So it's kind of in that same realm.
And you know what? He's not that likable. So like some of the
Mm,
oppression might simply be, there are people that you just stop inviting to things because you just don't enjoy their company anymore. So
right,
I think
right,
part of it could just be like, yeah, we just don't really get you people that much. Like Janelle,
right,
I can
right.
see still inviting and bringing around, but like some of them, it's just sort of like, I don't know, you're not really a good time.
Right, right. Especially if every like, I said this to somebody about Robin in that Christmas text message blow up, and
Mhm.
I had taken a position that the reason why the text message, in my opinion, why the text message very well may have blown up was because she tries to make everything about her pain and her suffering.
Yeah.
And if you invite some people over to the house, sometimes you don't want to do a political speech at your dinner party. You just
Right.
want to have fun. I just
Mhm.
want to have people over. We sit back, talk, drink, and laugh and giggle to ourselves, tell jokes, and we don't want to sit around and be on the defense and have arguments about this, that, and the other, and talk about how everybody's trying to come down on polygamy. Like there's probably polygamists who weren't inviting them to
Mhm.
dinner parties. You know,
Right. Going back to what you said about him running for office too, like part of me wants to just say, okay, Cody, but because Cody so desperately wants to be Joe Darger. He's not
mm-hmm.
Joe Darger. He wants Joe Darger's wives. He wants his life. He wants to look like him. But it's just like, you know what? Joe Darger's cool. You know, cool. Cody. Joe
Right,
Darger is more of an intellectual. You, not intellectual. Joe Darger, well spoken. You, talking around in circles, just a word salad going on. People don't even know what you're saying. So like you
right.
can't compare the two, but it's funny to even just think of the notion that Cody sees Joe Darger do something and then he's like, yeah, that's what I want to do now. That's what I'm gonna do. That's cool. I'm gonna do that too. But like you're just not likable.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
the weird part about it is that when it comes to like a Joe Darger situation, I can see a world where I can see a world where Joe, where he's looking at Joe Darger and he can't figure out why things are working out for him the way they are.
Mhm.
So he feels challenged by it. Like, here I am, I'm sitting here, you have 3 wives, I have 4 wives. You have, uh, you're a popular guy around uh, Utah, and here I am, I'm sitting here, I'm on TV, and I'm a popular guy on TV.
Mhm.
So I don't
Mhm.
understand why so many people are attracted to you or drawn to you or want to befriend you. I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think that that's part of the issue for him.
Yeah, he can't. Yeah. I 100% can see that because he has such a misguided understanding of who he is and his how he projects himself. I think he thinks people are perceiving him very different than how people actually are perceiving him, and this disconnect is the same thing that led to the disconnect in his inability to communicate with his wives and with his kids. He just thinks he's all
Mhm.
that and that everybody wants to always be around him. And you're right. And I think that's where some of his anger comes from, is the lack of understanding that why somebody would ever challenge him or go against
Right,
him or say something negative to him, because he's so great in his mind.
right. And I even to add on to that, I can see a world where you feel a certain kind of way because people are challenging. You
Mhm.
feel like you're being denied an opportunity. Like, how dare they deny me because I'm awesome and I'm amazing, and these people don't realize how great I am.
Mhm.
And why aren't they realizing how great I am? And it's the very notion that how dare they challenge, not only my authority when it comes to my family, but when I come on the show and I say that Robin is the greatest thing since sliced bread, how come people aren't believing me and liking the people that I like and disliking the people that I dislike? And
Mhm.
I think that that's one of the challenges because Cody's like, when he talk about his heart being broke about like Christine departing, I don't think it's just because she left. I think that his heart is broke because so many people were siding with Christine when she left. It's
Mm.
not just the idea notion that she left and because she's gone, my heart is broke. It's she left and people were saying like, "Oh, Christine was right. Good for her. I'm glad she's moving on. Hopefully, she can find somebody else and somebody better." And then
Mhm.
even with his response to that, you can't find anybody better than me because if a man finds out that you left a good man,
Mhm.
then there's no way that that man will ever want to be with you. And of course, the denotion there is that I am a good man. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I'm a good
Mhm.
guy. And if you leave me,
Yeah.
then there's no way they're going to want to be a part of your
Right.
have add you to their situation. You
Yes.
know?
Yes. Yes. I am all that. Like this,
Right,
you're
right,
leaving this. Are you kidding me? Then you'll get nothing. Just watch.
right.
Let's all watch it together. So he had to have been reeling for years because TLC is so far behind on when things
Mhm.
are actually being aired that by the time it was being aired, and then people saying, yes, Christine, like before it on social media, obviously it was coming out because we all knew what was happening ahead of time. But the show being released and the comments at that point, because not everybody's following all the social media, at that point, he had to have just been losing his mind, that he really,
Mhm.
truly, deep down in his soul believed no one's ever going to love you, Christine, because I'm the best that you would ever be able to find. You were lucky that I took you on as one of my wives. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out for you. And for it to just soar and become one of the greatest things she's done in her life, and for her father
Right.
and her mother to be 100% supportive of it and actually diss Cody on camera. I mean, albeit he didn't know he was on camera at the time, but TLC in their brilliance aired his like comment about Cody under his breath when he was hugging Christine at her wedding or at the rehearsal for her wedding. Um, the Christine's father was so respected by Cody because of his standing
Right.
in the church, that, and knowing that his opinion is going to still carry weight in the AUB. Even though he's not in leadership in there anymore, it's still going to carry weight. That is going to freak. Oh, God, Cody, I can't even imagine the internal mental battle and challenge that he was going through during that time to realize he's not all that.
Right,
Probably
right.
the first time in his life that he actually, because he talks on and on and on, and the wives were reinforcing and enabling this whole narrative of he's so great and all these women want him. And he could probably pick whoever he wanted to pick, and on and on and on and on along with that narrative, and them just saying, yes, and he's so great, and people are always fawning after him. And Meri and Cody were the cool kids. And when he came to the church, everybody was like, woo, and Robin, played into the whole thing too. Who's this really sandy blonde surf boy looking guy out there? I'm in love. And so he let that just be the story and the narrative in his head for decades until it all came crumbling down, which is great.
Right. Oh, we got some super chats. Let's see. Brittany, not Brittany. When I not super chat, you're leaving this. You're leaving this, Cody. We saw you in the poop pond. Stop it! Like you saw the magic. Thank you so much for the super chat. Something new.
I love that, James. I love that.
Oh, we got another one from Erica MF. $5 super chat. I stopped watching after they built the homes in Las Vegas. I didn't get back into it until I found out Christine left. I was like, "Go girl!"
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much where I was.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I had started watching when I heard there was going to be problems at the Hoedown Ranch. But Erica MF got. Thank you so much, Erica. But yeah, I was right there with Erica. Like I was not watching the show because I was like, this isn't going to end well. And that's what I thought when I first heard about the show. And then seeing them like buying houses and doing all these things, I was like, wow, the show must be kicking off like gangbusters because I wasn't really paying attention to the finances. And then I think it was season 16 when Christine was like, I can't do this anymore, Cody. I can't do polygamy with Cody. And Meri's there, look at the mountains. I was like, oh, shit. So after that, I was in it. I was in deep.
That was a crazy scene. Just a crazy scene. Stop. He puts her arm around her. Look at the mountains. I'm like, yeah, that's good. She's now going to say, you know what? Cody's not that bad. Those mountains. That's all I needed to look at. That's it. I'm back in. You're right, Meri.
Right. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah. Why would I leave a man when I have such scenery? Like,
exactly.
Nah, not enough. That's the thing too. And even that kind of goes hand in hand with the whole notion of what was talked about in the book with regard to them saying that, talking about oppression. Like this is that part where it becomes a recurring thing. You become a participant in your own oppression because she's sitting there watching Christine be mistreated. And yet and still, like the same way, and here's the ironic part, the same way she can make the argument that somebody may say something nasty about polygamy. Somebody may look down on me because I'm a polygamist. Somebody may offend me because I'm a polygamist. But yet and still, you watch this man who is supposed to take care of his wife, supposed to love, respect, and honor his wife. He sits here and disrespects the hell out of her, makes her feel bad, humiliates her, demeans her, and then when she walks off because she's tired of being treated like her opinion doesn't matter, her perspective doesn't count, and anything that she wants is ridiculous especially when it doesn't align with what he wants. And she says, I'm fed up and I'm tired of being mistreated. I'm tired of being abused. I'm tired of being manipulated. And Meri, the person in this chapter who's talking about decrying oppression, turns to her and says, "Look at the mountains and stay in the family. Stay in a situation where you're being oppressed." And this is the weird part where the oppressed becomes the oppressor, and
Mhm.
that's one of the funky dances that I think a lot of these groups do, because it's not enough. They take the chains of oppression off the limbs and they put it on the minds of these folks, and they trap them into the system. So it becomes a system where they start to oppress one another, and you don't need the man coming down and saying, "Look here, woman, this is what you're gonna do because I'm the man and I'm the patriarch." When you have sister wives standing there saying, "Look here, sister wife, this is what you need to do because he's the man and we need to follow him." You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And it
Mhm.
also gives plausible deniability to these guys who will sit there and say, "I never told them that they had to do that. I never, they do this. The women make the choices. The women insist on polygamy. I don't know why." You know what I mean? And so it's that
Mhm.
weird place. And maybe that's part of the reason why when she was saying it, I was kind of like, it kind of pushed me off a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think she remembered because Christine kept saying, like, oh, the mountain started singing. And so, like, then I knew, then I was like roped in. It's like, go back to that period of time when you were naive and stupid, Christine, because we knew you didn't want to come here originally. And then all of a
Mm.
sudden, the mountains kind of spoke to you and the angels were singing when you looked at the mountains. So, like, it's like she's like redirecting her and going, go back there to that period of time. Like, bury your head in the sand. Forget everything that's been said and done. Please go back to the ignorance you had and that mental lapse that you had at that one period of time when you were willing to say, all right, we can go to Flagstaff.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, poor
And
Mary.
even that, like, because even if you put that into perspective, we can get into the chapter in a bit, but when you put that into perspective of, because I think that that means a lot. Like, I've never really thought about the weight of that example, but if you look at it, when they went to Flagstaff, Christine had her kids, packed her kids up, who were thriving in Vegas.
Mhm.
Janelle as well, her kids were thriving in Vegas. And this is the
Mhm.
second time we've watched them do it. Like, so it's not even the second time they've done it, but it's the second time that we watched them do it to their children. And one of the distractions that occurred was, yeah, I'm about to tear my kids to pieces, but look how pretty the mountains are out here and the distraction of those mountains. And then when Christine is pushed into a situation where it's blatant that she's being mistreated and
Mhm.
mishandled, they go back to look at those mountains. Look at that distraction. Take your
Mhm.
mind off of your issues and the
Mhm.
problems and focus on something that really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, you don't have to be married to Cody to go out and enjoy some damn mountains. That's not a requirement. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right. And his
Like, I don't
argument
have to.
when he said he chose the reason he chose Flagstaff, it was the most beautiful place in America. No,
Mm.
I've traveled to many of the states, over 40 of the states. Lots of beautiful places in America.
Right,
And I
right.
would not call Flagstaff, Arizona even in my top 10. So,
Mm,
not the most beautiful place, but it's nice how he
right.
sold that. That's he tied it up in a bow of, I'm going to take you to the most beautiful place in the world, Flagstaff, Arizona. And so they're like, oh, I
Right.
guess those mountains are beautiful now that you mention it.
Right. I take you
And,
to nice places. And that's a
mhm,
weird thing too, because if I encourage anybody, like if you are ever in we'll take, you don't necessarily have to jump on a plane and fly to a foreign land to go somewhere interesting. There are a lot of, like, America is one of the most eclectic, diverse places you can visit in the world. Like, there's so many different pockets of culture here,
yeah,
and there's so many places that are just jaw-droppingly, astoundingly beautiful
yeah,
that you could go from state to state to state to state and find a lot of things to watch and look at and places that you might want to be. And
yes.
the idea or notion that you have to stay with somebody in order to enjoy a place is ridiculous to me on its face. You
Yes.
know?
Yes. It makes absolutely no sense. You're absolutely right.
Right.
I just spent the last 5 days in the Amish country, and the view from outside, the breakfast area of the rolling hills and the mist in the morning and the sun rising and the cows in the pasture. I mean, it was breathtaking. It was really, really
Mm,
beautiful. I think way more beautiful than the desert looking area of Miles with mountains in the background.
right, right,
Like I'm like this. It was rich, it was lush, it was green, it was nature. There were animals, there were, trees and grass and rolling hills. It was a mountains, but it was rolling hills and just, and the beauty of it was amazing. And Flagstaff, quite frankly, now I haven't lived in Flagstaff. I actually haven't even been to Flagstaff, but from watching it on the show, it looks kind of gray to me. It doesn't
right,
seem very happy and light, and it yeah, it seems like maybe they have a lot of overcast days there, or I don't know. It just, I don't know. Maybe it's just the camera, the way the cameras are being shot, but something about it feels kind of dark and depressing to me. Like I'm just like, most beautiful place in the world. Like, yeah. I'm not sure I even want a vacation there. Curiosity, just because I like to go to any city and view it,
right,
definitely. But other than that, they're not selling it on the show. Let's just put it that way.
right, right. Well, it could be the like the tenor of the show too. Like, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
ironic? Like, all of a sudden, the reason why Cody's talking about moving out of Arizona now is because Arizona Flagstaff, like the mayor of Flagstaff, like, look, you're giving our town a bad reputation. Like, you're killing our tourist industry is down. Nobody wants to come here.
Hmm.
They just see gray and they just see greatness, and nobody,
Yeah.
that one restaurant that they always sit at, and the Brown
Yeah.
family's breaking apart the restaurant, Mexican restaurant, they're going out of business.
Yes.
People are scared
Yeah.
to go there.
And it could just all be TLC editing, It could all just be lighting and direction and editing and the way, but and maybe coupled with the ominous music that we're getting on
Right,
all
right,
of these episodes and the heaviness of all of the topics, but they're just not selling it. It always seems cold. It always seems like they're struggling to chop away at the ice to get going somewhere. They're always freezing when they're talking to each other. And then you never see blue sky.
right.
Then again, maybe they just never shoot in the summer. Maybe they're always shooting in the winter
I
months.
think that's it. I think
Hmm.
that's it. I think that they're shooting a lot during the winter months, especially like
Hmm.
the Christmas, the fall.
Yeah.
So you're not getting you're not getting Arizona's best. Like, I think that that's kind of the downside of it too, because
Well,
they
yeah.
just
I've spent a lot of time in Scottsdale because my mother-in-law lived there for a while, and talk about blue skies and sunshine, and it was
mm,
gorgeous. It was beautiful. Arizona is a beautiful
right.
state. And that's why I feel like, I don't know if they're really doing Flagstaff to service
Yeah,
this
yeah.
show. You're right. The mayor might just say, you know what, guys, go.
You're killing us. You're killing us.
The
You're
Tourism
killing us.
Society of Flagstaff has voted, and you all
Right.
can pick another town.
Like, bankrupt us. It's like was it that the mayor of Jaws? Like, you guys are killing me. Shark eating everybody. I can't put people in the water. What
Exactly.
what is your thoughts on the like the overall thoughts on the chapter?
I feel like there was, they presented the LDS church as being very judgmental and very critical.
Hmm.
That it was, I think that they were actually kind of, maybe that's how it is. I don't know. I'm not in the LDS church, but a lot of this persecution that Mary felt, she would point back to the people in the LDS church are going to feel this way. Not
Right.
necessarily people in general are going to feel this way, which
Mm.
again goes to the smaller insular society that they feel like they have. Because I feel like they think if they branch out from the AUB, they go to LDS. Like that's
Right.
like stepping out in the world. Not realizing there's a whole massive 98% more to learn about and to see and to experience. So, yeah, I felt bad for people in the LDS church to not be able to have a rebuttal. Like, we're going to have somebody from the LDS church now give their perspective on this, but to say that they were frowned upon and denigrated, like, like the terminology that she would use, like unfairly criticized. I'm like, I don't know if it's unfairly criticized. It is against the law. So,
right.
So like she was very, or I also wrote in the margins, if this is true, that's sad that, there would be this society that was that critical of them and that judgmental of them, that they literally wouldn't befriend them anymore if it happened. And maybe, okay, now we can go back to the Amish comparison again too. And somebody pointed this out in the chat as well, that as I talk about how wonderful it is for them to allow their kids to experience Rumspringa on their own too. It's not like mom and dad are taking you around the world to see other things. It's like the kids go completely on their own, make a whole bunch of horrible decisions and experience life, which I think is what the purpose is from the society's point of view. Like, go do it all on your own, because we haven't equipped you. So you are going to fail in the end, and then you're going to come back to mom. But if you don't come back to the family, then you're shunned. So this is the only kind of shunning that I've noticed, that they feel there are people in the LDS church. And again, not being in it, I don't know. So if there's people in the chat who are LDS, you can speak to this. Do they still... Maybe I believe that they did in the past, but do they still truly shun people who leave the LDS church and choose to live polygamy? Because that would be very different from the rest of the Christian faith. So somebody decides they're going to leave Catholicism and join the Methodist church or the Protestant church, or just go to a non-denominational Christian church. There's not any, they did what? It's just, so for them to essentially share the same tenets and the same scripture, but to, choose a different part of it, to think that it's so incredibly horrible. I don't know. It could very well be that, that they believe ours is the only right way and yours isn't. And therefore, clutch my pearls. I can't believe you're doing that. Just find it hard to believe, especially because as you keep reading through this chapter, we're getting examples of when they decided to go ahead and share a little bit with people that were LDS, and they never let them know that they were. And surprise, surprise, people were like, I didn't know. I wish you would have told me. I'm so sad that you felt like you had to keep that secret from me. Over and over again. And on the show, it was the same thing when they decided to have that dinner in Vegas and invite all their old bosses and friends and colleagues and everyone they kept a secret from. They were all like, I just thought it was the coolest thing that I have a polygamous friend now. Right. Not only didn't judge them and criticize them, but they kind of went the whole opposite way of either it's so sad that you felt you needed to do that, to, that you would think that I would judge you like that, or man, I think it's cool that I got a polygamous friend right now. I mean, that's how Janelle felt. Janelle was so proud that her husband, her ex-husband, but her first husband, his family were polygamous. She was constantly telling everybody she didn't keep it a secret. She thought it was cool to be able to share that nugget of information, because Janelle's a little eclectic. She likes things that are a little bit different and quirky and odd and that. And beforehand, she's like, guess what? I know people who are polygamists. And I really like her.
LDS church.
Yeah. And she was part of the LDS church. And here was her experience in saying, whoa, cool. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll marry one. He's not going to stay there, but I still think it's cool. And I'm completely embracing the rest of his family who is still in the AUB church and who are still polygamous. And I think that they're pretty awesome. So having that perspective and knowing every time they shared it, they really weren't shunned by people, is again that same sense of, I can't buy that you were victims. And then I go back to, oh, was this for the book and was this for the show? And then I go back to, oh, but they uprooted their whole family and took them to Vegas. But then again, Cody would uproot him for a smaller, lesser reason, probably, and take him to Vegas. I mean, to him, he was probably thrilled that he had a reason to claim that he was being persecuted. They weren't persecuted. It was the fear of persecution. But that overall sense, Cody has always moved. He has ants in his pants. He can't stay still. He can't put down roots. You know he's going to be leaving Flagstaff as soon as he can get Robin on board with it. He's not going to stay there very long. So I can see Cody choosing to uproot his family and his kids because that's what he wants to do. And they'll fall in line. They'll figure it out. They'll be fine eventually. And the wives just kind of followed because they believed him and the whole persecution part of it. But yeah, I found it also interesting that Meri points out and says that, they've spent their whole life keeping this a secret. So then that's when I go back to, okay, maybe she really did believe it. Because if they've never told anybody and they, tried to live amongst the community and not live in one of the little towns that was polygamous, although their house had to look like a polygamous house, but that's neither here nor there. But she said, lying is not part of our faith. And I'm thinking, I think it's an essential tenet of your faith.
Right.
To say that lying is not part of our faith. And she says, nor is it part of my moral compass. And I would believe that it's probably not part of her moral compass. I would believe that it was probably difficult for her to lie. So she said that it was difficult for her to do, but to say that it's not part of her faith, I'm like, doing something illegal is condoned in your faith. So, and therefore you have to lie. It's an essential part of your faith. So I found that a little bit disingenuous, and I felt it like, oh, she's just confused. She just really, I feel like she just keeps going back and forth between, I've been told so long that we're persecuted and we need to be afraid, that I'm stuck in this. I'm scared and I'm a victim and everyone's out to get me. Even though I kind of know it's not true, and she's kind of mixed up with it. And to say lying's not part of our faith, and then in a couple sentences later to say we have to do it, it's part of, like, no, then it is part of your faith. Like, do you not understand these words you're putting on the paper? Right. These two things do not go together. You can't say you spent your whole life lying because everyone in your faith says you have to, and then say lying's not part of your faith.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's no doctrine that says lie, but y'all do. Y'all have to in order to live the faith that you're choosing to live. So, yeah, the whole background, having her describe what it was like to grow up polygamous and the persecution she's felt her whole life leading into right now. It was really kind of difficult to believe. And, if we go back to the show too, I was so over the numerous scenes that TLC did where the wives would run into somebody at a clothing store, run into somebody at a jewelry store, run into somebody at a restaurant and say, did you know we were polygamists? And always having to share this information. And time after time again, the people looked at them like, yeah, okay, that's great. Don't care. Yeah, but thanks for sharing. And it's like they tried to have a reaction because they felt like that's what they were supposed to do, and be like, oh yeah, and do you think that's okay? All right. The only person I have ever seen have a negative reaction was on Seeking Sister Wives, when the Salhudins were at that floral.
Their mom.
And the lady at the parent, the mom. But remember how, I mean, in terms of a random and, we're buying it for our sister wife, because, and again, one of those TLC setup scenes, we're going to share about how we're polygamous and see how the society reacts to it. And it is like 99% of, okay, whatever, to each their own. It's a free country. Or that's kind of cool or interesting. Or a lot of, I've never met a polygamist. Oh, that's interesting. They seem normal. Okay. That one florist lady, she was not having it. she was
Right,
she said
right. She's
some
not a fan. She wasn't a fan.
pretty strong things about the two of them for living that lifestyle. So, and that's the only time. That's not even on this show. As many times as they force
Right,
them.
right.
The
Well,
most,
the
the
one
most.
time,
I'm sorry. The most uncomfortable I ever felt was
Mhm.
when Robin was showing the pictures of her kids, and in Christine's family picture too. And then
Right,
the gentleman could not speak English very well,
Mhm.
and she then decided this would be a good opportunity for me to ask him or for me to share with him that I'm a polygamist. And do you understand what
Right,
that means? It has nothing to do with anything we're doing. This could just be a second, it's just like a second marriage. Like, here's the picture of the
right,
man with his other kids, very normal in America. I want this face to go now with my kids because he is the father now of these children. End of story. But no, she had to go on. We're polygamists. Do you know what that means? My husband has many wives in that. And the guy from Russia was like, the artist was like, uh-huh. Okay, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm so
all right.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Let these
Well, the
people
check
be.
clear. I think that's all he was worried about. He could care
Yeah,
less. But
right.
the one time that they did have somebody who disagreed with, well, the only time I can really recall somebody disagreeing with polygamy audibly during, well, no, well, they had a couple. One was the closest to them was Cody's friend from high school, which we'll see, I think, in
Oh, right.
season three, like
Mm-hmm.
I think in season episode 4 or 5.
Yeah,
They go back to Utah, and a friend that he would hang out with in high school said,
yeah,
you could leave your 3 wives and come on back to the LDS church.
yeah.
Him. Then you had the folks when they were trying to do the sister wife jewelry down in St. George at the convention or whatever. And you had
Mm-hmm.
the people like, I don't believe in polygamy or whatever. But there are people who, and this is where it kind of gets weird because I think that the church disagrees with it. Like the
Mm-hmm.
LDS church, makes a hard stance against polygamy because they are suffering from the same
Mm-hmm.
prejudice as people. Like they perceive a prejudice too, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody thinks that Mormons have a bunch of wives,
Right.
and that's not who we are because we stopped doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
they're lumping us in with them. And the ironic part is the LDS church sees the AUB the same way the AUB sees the Kingstons and that other dude, the guy they talk about, Warren Jeff's group.
Warned. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they see it the same way. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's where it's at. But for the most part, when they actually sit down and talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
they encounter folks who will accept you where you are. And I think that that's kind of the case with most situations. And it's reflective of something Meri had wrote in the book where she said, in the second paragraph of the chapter, she said, I kept my beliefs a secret because I wanted to be accepted as a normal person, quoting normal in quotation,
Mm-hmm.
person, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I didn't want to be stereotyped. I wanted my friends to accept me for me and not reject me based on my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned earlier, I think the ironic part is that as I have a lot of diverse friends, like friends who are well heeled to friends who are struggling to make rent, like what I mean, from top to bottom,
Mm-hmm.
races, ethnicities, religions, whatever the case may be. I know a lot of different types of people, and one of the things that would always bother me is if I encounter somebody and they don't trust me enough to reveal who they are. You know what I mean? Like you put your prejudice on me as though
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be prejudiced against you, but you didn't give me the opportunity for me to be who I am. So
Mm-hmm.
so as much as you may say, "Well, I was afraid you wouldn't like me," well, I'm faced with the reality that you didn't trust me enough to
Mm-hmm.
tell me the truth on who you are. And I think that that's one of the challenges that, like when Meri talks about like some of her friends feeling a certain kind of way, that's one of the challenges that you're going to have is because you're not being honest with them about who you are, and
Right.
you're hiding a significant thing back from them. Let me give Daisy Reyes. Where's my clicker? Can't find my thing. What the heck? Oh, here it is. I think. Oh, so unprofessional. Daisy Reyes. Daisy Reyes. Here we go with the super chat.
Yeah.
999. Robin didn't want son to contact bio dad and college. Super, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I think that that's accurate. She's talking about, for those who may have forgot, because it took me a little bit to get to it, but what she's referring to is why they moved to Arizona. And that
Mhm.
does make more sense than a lot of things that I've heard as to why it was so important for Robin to be out there to try to,
Mhm.
you want to head off any contact that he has. So you always want to keep him in your house and keep him close so that he doesn't stray off and talk to outside people, which is ironically pretty much in line with some of the things that we're talking about here with regard to how uh, uh, keeping people afraid and keeping people close to you through fear. Your dad doesn't want to have anything to do with you, so you shouldn't contact him. And I want to make sure you stay in my house so I can keep you safe
Mhm.
from this person who's going to hurt you. When that person very well may not mean you any harm. I want
Mhm.
to keep. You guys should be afraid of who you tell you're in a polygamous relationship because those people may hurt you. But as you mentioned, you have example after example after example of when they do reveal to somebody that they're in a polygamous relationship. Most people don't care, and
Mhm.
if they do care, it's more or less from a point of fascination. They're
Mhm.
fascinated by it. They're not,
Yeah.
oh my God, you disgusting. Get away from me. That's not the conversation that they're having. And if they are having those conversations, I wish she would have illustrated those conversations in the book.
Yeah.
But she didn't take the opportunity, which leads me to believe that those conversations never happened.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. And I believe that these would be thoughts and ideas of people in like their teens because, in high school, people are much more judgmental and much more opinionated, much more, I'm right, you're all wrong philosophy. But again, it goes to they're now grown adults. And to think, I would be so hurt if any of my friends ever didn't tell me something because I thought I wouldn't be their friend anymore. Like I can't even wrap my brain around that. Yeah, like I might not agree with a choice that they're making and all that, but I would still love them the same. I would still have the same relationship with them. It wouldn't change who we are to each other anymore. And for them to really believe that all these people are no longer going to want to hang out with Cody's friend admitted that at first he thought he was all crazy and all that too. Okay, well, he was in his early 20s at the time when this all happened, and that's when the dissension happened. But like now, he's hanging out with them, they're rekindling their friendship. Like this is another example of, and he clearly still does not agree with Cody's choice and all of this, but we can see examples of I mean, in the end, that's your choice, and I'll still love you as a
Right,
friend. If you like them as a friend, then you like them as a friend.
right, right. And I think that that's a good point too, because one of the things that is very weird is that they a lot of times they'll look at it and say, I don't understand why these people are making choices about our faith, our religion. But
Mhm.
then at the same time, we just talked about it last week on Sister Lives, where you had the example of them going to the church to get the kids involved in another faith so that they can be around kids who are closer to their faith or their religion or their moral standing, and they decided not to do it because there's something with those kids, that there's something wrong with them, and I don't
Mhm.
want my kids associating with those kids. But then
Mhm.
at the same time, had they gone to the church and the minister had looked at them and said, well, I don't want my young people influenced
Mhm.
negatively by hanging out with your kids because I don't approve of your faith and your beliefs. They would have lost their minds. Like, it's okay for them to be prejudiced and bigoted, but as soon as
Yeah.
somebody does that to them, then it's I can't believe they said that.
Yeah. They had no idea that in that scene they were doing exactly what they didn't want to be done to them. They were judging,
Right.
and they were making opinions and judgments and decisions based on what those people believe in. And we don't want our kids around them in case they might influence. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If the shoe is on the other foot, this is what they're trying to avoid is a situation that would be the opposite of it. And here's this poor, nice young pastor guy who seems very meek in that, who's like, no, they would be welcome here. Our youth would welcome
Right.
them. It would be okay. And Christine loses it. I
Right. I don't want my kids here.
like, why?
They might be exposed to other religions. Which is it is weird too because you guys are all gung ho about them going to the big high school in Las Vegas, the public high school in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and exposing them to all those things. But then when it comes to them going to a church organization, all of a sudden it's no, I don't want my kids exposed to that negative church atmosphere. Like what kind of church is it?
Right.
What do you think was going to happen?
What do you think the Presbyterians do behind closed doors?
Right.
There's no secret meetings and secret curtains or anything. It's all out there in the open. And the youth group, they're really getting together, and they're like having water balloon fights and playing games and listening to music and just it's a social thing. It's a fun thing for them to get together with kids, and for parents to know the kids are safe. They're not drinking. They're not doing anything wrong. They're having wholesome fun with other kids that are like-minded and just want to have wholesome fun too. Like, the harm in that, there's none. There's not. You could go to a whole different faith. I mean, they could have branched off and done something Hindu or just, I don't know what their youth groups look like in those other religions, but if I knew they were getting together and just having a bunch of wholesome fun, and they were all being innocent, and that, like nothing negative was going to happen, and there would be supervision nearby for people to go to, and that, I'd be like, fine, go. Those are great friends to have, people who are like-minded like you, that want to do right in the world. So for it to be a part of the Christian faith and following the same Bible that they believe, and for them to act, or at least Christine to act like it was so incredibly bad, I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. So let's see. Wait, it was Janelle and Meri were both on board for it. So it was Robin and Christine were the two that were like, yeah, no, this isn't going to happen. I don't understand it at all. That made no sense to me. Yeah.
Well, again, I think it was because even Lori Karat pointed out, but I think that it's just a form of control where they were trying to centralize control of the kids' time, their minds, and their imagination. So no, I don't want to have the negative influences of other religions where they have the opportunity to, because ironically, and here is another point of irony, ironically, them coming out doing the show is revealing to America.
Oops, you went on silent, James.
There we go.
Okay.
What they did the whole show for, thank you very much. What they did the whole show for was to demonstrate how cool they were as normal people, and they're just like everybody else. And the only thing that would have been revealed if the kids would have been able to go to this youth group was the kids would have found out that the people that are in different religions are normal, and they're just like everybody else. They're not the, hateful people who are sitting around judging them because they're polygamous and they're part of this community. And that's what they would have found out. If anything, I think that they were put off more by the fact that they weren't rejected.
Yeah.
Because they went there with the full intention that they were going to have a blowout argument with this man who was going to tell them that what they're doing is evil and they need to break up their families because it's sinful. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the weird part about it. Even the one guy, there was a guy that was across the street who was part of the family thing, and he said, this is like about lust, and this isn't a positive thing. And hold on a second. Oh, okay. So this is about lust, and this isn't a positive thing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And they turned around and they started, blasting him because he had a difference of opinion. But I thought that's what this was about. You
Yeah.
were okay with people not approving of your situation. You just wanted people to let you live your life. He's letting you live your life. He just doesn't agree with it.
Yeah.
Which is, there's a lot of people, this, I can tell you for sure, this isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing that's required for it is outrageous.
Yeah, that's a really great point, James. It looked like Christine was the first one to speak up and shut it down because she realized the trajectory and the way this conversation was going, which was, we love everybody. The love of Jesus is here. We have open arms, and our kids are going to welcome your kids, and we're all going to have a good time. And it's going to be, and then she was just sort of like, this is not, we're going to stop this right now. And
Right.
I just don't feel comfortable. I just, no offense, but I just, like, say no more.
Right.
We'll talk about this as a family.
Right. And that's even noting the fact that if you were that opposed to it, why would you even go to that meeting? You know what I mean? Like, if it was that bad, like if you felt that strongly about it, like I'm not sending my kids to another church because I don't believe that that's the right place for them to go. Well, why don't we just go and figure out what it's about? No, there's no reason why I would go there and waste my time, their time, and I don't even want to be in that situation. I don't want to go because my kids aren't going. Your kids could go, but my kids ain't going. They stay right here. And like you said, I did story time when I was a kid and I was in high school. I did I was actually one of the leaders in my parish youth group. Like I grew up Catholic. I was in the CYO. CYO. Not only was I in the parish CYO and one of the leaders there, but I actually was in the citywide, tied into the citywide leadership of that organization. And all we did was, like, especially under my leadership and my buddies, because me and my buddies took it over.
I wish I was a fly on the wall.
Right. Shout out to Joe and Bodre, my homies. But when we took that bad boy over, all we did was we organized a lot of trips. So we would organize bus trips to amusement parks and things like that for kids to be able to come and participate in. We didn't care necessarily about, like, obviously the church did. They were trying to, they try to have spiritual things sometimes. But for the most part, we just wanted to create a place where people could come and hang out and enjoy themselves in a safe environment. You know what I mean? We didn't grow up in I didn't grow up in a bad neighborhood at all, not even by a stretch. But we just wanted to have like things to do. Like we just, instead of just hanging out at the mall or whatever, hey, let's organize a trip. Let's get a bus trip. We're going to put a deposit down. We're going to get money. We're going to do fundraisers. So for people who can't afford to buy the tickets, we're going to make sure that we have everything set up so everybody can go. We're going to have a blast. And that's what we did. And I think that if they would have did that in Vegas, if they were doing anything even similar to that in Vegas, the kids would have had a good time. They would have had an opportunity to meet different type of kids, but the kids that they would have met would have been kids who were forward-thinking children, and the association would have been strong. Even if they didn't share the same specific religious beliefs, they could have shared the same moral fabric and been able to move forward and expand their horizons that way. But I still think they were getting that in high school or in the public schools that they went to.
Sure.
So,
sure. And there's a level of maturity when kids that age, that high school age, can have that kind of wholesome fun, because naturally all through elementary school and kind of leading into middle school, it's fun and games, and they love all that wholesome kind of stuff. They love playing games and hanging out in that. And then they hit those high school ages and like they're too cool for it. The cool thing now is to rebel, and the cool thing now is to talk back, and the cool thing now is to not do your homework, and to, like it's right. That whole testing period of like really to be cool. And then eventually you get older and like, I mean, we had a Christmas theme for my retreat this weekend, and let me tell you, the games we played and these women having such a ball. With raffles and little gifts and just being excited
Right.
to open up and see what's inside and everyone cheering and clapping for them. Like, it goes full circle in life. So during that period of time when, oh no, to fit in, you're too cool to play the little kid games now. Like, we're adults. They want to try so hard to be adults until they realize being an adult is really like the most fun. Being an adult is acting like you're a kid again.
Right.
So during those middle years, if you're one of those kids that has a maturity level that can rise above and realize, no, hanging out at amusement parks, going on a picnic, going swimming, playing games, just, chatting by a campfire at night and making s'mores is a good time. And there's value in it. Then I think indeed that those kids rise above.
Right. Right. And it gives them opportunities. And
Mhm.
and two, like one of the big things, get some super chats, but one of the big things for me, especially when I was a young dude, like I said, because we not only did the trips and stuff, but we actually uh talked and negotiated with the church and the school to be able to set aside a space in their area where we took the space and we actually turned it into a youth center. So we had like we made calls, we had donations of pool tables, ping pong tables, we had televisions, video games, like we had a whole bunch of stuff. Like so we had a cool place for people to be able to come and just hang out.
Yeah.
And part of that is just creating a safe environment because
Yeah.
you want everybody to be able to hang out, have a good time, and feel encouraged. And what that does, by them being involved in these opportunities, it gives them the courage and the ability to be able to feel that security that when they do want to step out and try something different or try something new or pursue something, they have that foundation because they were a part of something, as opposed to them just sitting in the house being by themselves. That's actually one of the things that I think a lot of the kids now, one of the detriments of us having the wonderment of the internet, because you can reach across the world now in a couple clicks. You could be, what we're doing now. You can be talking to a multitude of people very quickly. But at the same time, very seldom are we in situations where we find ourselves in a public space where we're interacting with people.
Yeah.
And we're losing a lot of that socialization. And that's what we were trying to provide, a space where people could come, kids could come and socialize with one another.
Yeah.
And, let's be honest, some of it wasn't exactly like, I don't want to come off like I was, Friar James. Like some of it was, obviously I wanted to meet people too. Like I was creating opportunities.
Right.
But
Right.
that's what it was. Like we were creating opportunities for people to be able to come together and hang out.
I find it interesting too. This, I think, was their first opportunity to really see other faiths do embrace you. I think that their world was just LDS, and the LDS, again, wanting AUB to go away because they're not servicing the LDS church that well. And because there is some, depending on who you're talking to in there, you are going to get some judgment from them, that they then projected and put that on all faiths out there. So this is the first time every youth group I've ever been in or that my kids were in, they don't care if you have any faith, or they don't care if your faith is completely different. The whole concept is we're all just getting together and having a good time. That's really what it's about. It's like we're giving you an opportunity to do something that's not bad, that's not wrong, and to meet other people that may be similar minds, may not be similar minds, but in general, somebody has encouraged you to come there to just have a good time. So generally speaking, it's going to be a positive outlook that way, and I think that it was eye-opening for them to see that. Okay, so maybe some people in the LDS church don't like us, but that's, I don't think, the norm out there. I think most people are very inclusive and welcoming of other faiths. I understand that there are some that are not going to be, and there's definitely going to be fringe groups of every faith that are not going to be accepting. But I think this was their lesson in learning that, you know what, people are generally accepting.
Right, right. Let's do Brittany, not Brittany.
Not Brittany.
Brittany, not Brittany. Down there to check, and it didn't even apply to Robin's kids. Okay, let
Mm.
me give you a quick thank you. And then we have Daisy Reyes. The kids feel worthless because the dad chose the kitty cat over them. I say kitty cat.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true. The rules don't apply to Robin and her kids. That's absolutely true. You don't
Right.
see them going to the LDS church. You don't see them involved in their faith. You don't see the whole notion of 18 years old, bye-bye, you're on your own. Figure it out. Leave.
Mhm.
You know, like, no, they're well into their 20s. They're all still at home. Like, the rules don't apply when it comes to Robin's kids.
Right, right,
Mhm.
and you can see that throughout. You can
Yeah.
see that throughout. Here's something I agree with Lori Carrad about. Like I have an issue with autocorrect too, especially when I'm typing on my phone.
Yeah, me
Little
too.
sidetrack, but yeah, I mean I think that was very revealing. And
Yeah.
then like you said, there was a lot in this chapter where it talks about a lot of the perceived um, confrontation as far as stereotype was concerned. Uh, let's see, like a lot of polygamists prefer to, this is what Mary had to say, a lot of polygamists prefer to live in smaller, closed communities where nearly all of the residents are of the same faith. And this is like the precursor when she starts talking about uh, Leon's um,
Mm,
thoughts on polygamy and
mm.
faith. Because from her perspective, actually, this chapter, depending on how it works with the other wives, I guess, this chapter actually probably could have been described better as faith,
Yeah,
because that's what they're talking about.
yeah,
You know, not
yeah.
to try to rewrite your book, ladies, but this has
Definitely.
far more to do with faith than celebrity. But
Celebrity. There's like a paragraph about celebrity, and that's
right,
it. Yeah.
people knew who I was anyway. This dang going church,
Which is
but
funny too, because like somebody decided we're going to make a whole section celebrity, so go ahead and write, and this is what she came up with.
right, right, right,
Nothing. I got nothing.
because she wasn't a celebrity, so
Yeah,
at
she
least not at the
wasn't.
time.
Yeah.
But oh, I dropped my thing. But oh, so when they were talking about Joel, no, not Joel. When they were talking about Leon,
Mm,
they were saying that Leon was in a situation where they uh felt insulated because they spent so much time in this community and they thought that it was okay. So Leon was very open about being a part of a polygamous family, which goes against a lot of what she had said before because Mary came out and said that, well, we kept it all a secret. It was so important to keep it a secret, and nobody knew. Even the people that I was close to had no idea that I was a polygamist. And then in the very next breath, oh, but Leon was telling everybody.
mm,
And Leon was naive because they thought that everybody was accepting of it. But I'm gonna go about the business of demonstrating, and this is the weird part. Like I get where Mary would be coming from as a parent if you think that your child is naive about certain things, that you
mm,
want to try to open their eyes to the world. It can become destructive in that same sense that if you use the information that you provide to them about opening their eyes about the dangers of the world as a means and method to try to make them afraid to pursue their dreams, hopes, and desires in the world. You need to protect yourself from the world, so you need to not be a part of the world because the world is a dangerous place. I think that that's a wrong-headed message. The
mm,
message should instead be, this is what the game is. These are the rules. You need to operate with it. Learn how to move in the world safely so that you can come home. But I want you to experience as much of this as you can.
mhm.
And that's pretty much the take that I try to have. Like, my daughter, she actually, today is her birthday. Happy birthday, J baby. Um,
Yay, happy birthday.
yeah, right. Old lady. But one of the things that I talked to her about, like, especially as she's starting to become even more young lady, is that there. The reality of it is that there are things that she's going to experience in her lifetime that I'm never going to experience ever, ever, ever. No matter how open minded I try to be, or considerate I try to be, I'm just never going to know what it's like. I'm never going to know what it's like to be in a room full of guys and afraid that something's going to happen to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I might be in a room full of guys that think they might jump on me and beat my ass, but I'm not going to be in a room full of guys that'll be afraid, like, oh, I'm drinking too much, or they talking
Yeah.
kind of loose, and so there's certain realities that she has to deal with, and that's a reality. That's not me saying. So if I talk to my daughter about that situation, I'm not saying to her, you need to be afraid of all men because this is something that could happen to you, and so therefore, when it comes to men, you need to be terrified. No, no,
Mhm.
this is what happens in the world, and these are the type of people. There are good people in the world. There are good men and there are bad men.
Mhm.
There are kind men. There are evil men,
Mhm.
and I want you to be able to see the difference. But at the same time, I don't want you to limit yourself in with who you talk to and who you expose yourself to, and what experiences you have. And I think that that's the subtle difference, and that's not necessarily the message I received from Mary. What are your thoughts on it?
No, and I feel like she was rewriting the story again a little bit too, because she points
Mm,
out in her description of Leon's understanding, she said that she was so worried. She was so worried about Leon and the situation. Leon told her, Mom, you said that we were doing this so we can all be open, but I've never been secretive about my faith. I've always been open with my friends. So Mary goes on to say, well,
mm,
this is true. Most of Mariah's friends were at the time kids of our own faith. There really was no risk involved. So I'm saying in this paragraph, as she goes on to talk about Leon's friends were predominantly of the faith, there's two things that struck me. One was she's either calling Leon really stupid in this situation. And
mm.
Leon now is like 16 years old, right? She's either
Right.
saying Leon is so stupid, doesn't get the fact that everything that that the friends are all of the same faith, because that's what for those words to come out and say, listen, um I've never been secretive about my faith. Well, obviously, if you're all the same faith, you wouldn't be secretive about your faith. Like that's just
Right.
like what a stupid thing to say. So this is what I'm saying. Like she's either calling Leon stupid in this situation, or if you really look at the words, she says most of Mariah's friends at the time were kids. Most of the friends were kids of our own faith. So I think what Leon was referring to were the kids that were not of her faith. So Leon's trying to point out, listen, I've kept this a secret to nobody, and I have friends that are not in our faith, and it's been okay,
Mm,
and it's been fine for me. But she won't accept that. It's this victim mentality too, and I need to protect Leon from the world because Leon just doesn't understand. And then that frustrated me to read that, because I'm like, let Leon go. Leon just told you,
mm,
I'm okay. I've told people and they're all fine with it. So you should be okay with it too, Mom. But she won't have it. It's like rewriting that narrative. Leon doesn't understand.
right.
Most
Right.
of Leon's friends are of the faith. And so I'm just like, oh, like it's one of two ways. Either she's trying to create another victim narrative here, or she's calling Leon stupid, neither of which are good in the end. So
Right.
that whole paragraph just frustrated me to read it, because I'm like,
Right.
like
Right.
trying to reason with somebody who's irrational. She goes on, Mary goes on to say that Leon has yet to have the misfortune to suffer on the account of others' intolerance and doesn't know what it's like in the real world. Now, again, Leon did have people who are not in the faith. And of course, by the time they're writing this book, they're in public schools.
Right,
at this
right,
point. So this is so ridiculous. We're not writing this back in Lehigh. We're writing this when we're in Vegas and everyone's in the public school
right,
system. So obviously Leon has friends that are not of the AUB faith, because none of the friends down there were in the AUB faith. They were very clear to say no one in our faith is down in this area. We don't have a church. But I found it very interesting. This whole conversation starts leading into Meri being so scared of Leon not understanding the intolerance that's out there in the world. And I'm like, I think Leon so understood the intolerance that's out there in the world, because Leon was dealing with the polygamous faith, and Leon was also struggling with identity at the same time. And Meri had no idea that all these thoughts were going through Leon's head at the time. So I think the person that understood intolerance the most was Leon, because I think Leon has
right,
felt it all the way through, but also thought, I can never speak of any of this. And the reality is, without the show, I wrote this in the margins at some place, where would Leon be without the show? Because the show is what really was the precipice to open their minds, to let them be comfortable expressing who they are. And of course, the parents in this thing were trying to express that polygamy is okay, but deep down inside, Leon's thinking, who I feel I am and what I think I am is okay too. The way God made me is all right. And so that whole journey that Leon goes through, where would Leon be? Because Leon was the most dogmatic about, I'm going to be a polygamist. And I'm sure it's because then I don't have to be with this guy very much. I want to be in a polygamous family with a man who has 15 wives. I just want to be on the outskirts, have a whole bunch of sister wives that I hang out with, because I need to hide what I'm thinking and feeling as much as possible. And the best way to do that is to get into a large polygamous family. So I found it very interesting that I think Leon benefited the most from the show in terms of the ending outcome, because I really think they'd still be in Lehigh, Utah, if there wasn't a show. And I think Aspen would be living polygamy, and I don't know about Logan, and I don't know so much about Janelle's kids, but I think a lot of Christine's kids would be living polygamy. And by now, Robin probably would have her girls all married off into polygamous relationships.
yeah.
And I really believe that Leon too would be as well. So I do think that despite all the drama, despite all the difficulties, when we look at it on the other side, I think the opportunity for them to really be very introspective and reflective eventually, they're not there yet at all at the point that they were writing this book, is because of the show.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that it's a point made that with Leon's situation, because I even said something talking to Amanda, and she had said the same thing. Like when she was coming up, one of the things that she struggled with, she was the daughter of a preacher, so she kind of held that same position, because I knew people like that. Like I said, I grew up Catholic, and at the time, church was frowning on a lot of different alternative lifestyles, and so some of the people I knew, they clung to the faith hard as all get out. Like they were always in something, like whether it was a choir or choir youth leader, choir leader, whatever the case may be. They were always in something because they were trying so heavily to try to deny who they were, that they said, I'm going to hold on to, because clearly there's sin in me and I need to lash myself closer to get rid of all this sin. And so it's like a lot of guilt and stuff that was running around in that. And I think that with Leon's experience, had she stayed in Vegas, I don't think she would have had. Well, I'm gonna say she, Miss Jenna. But had they stayed in Vegas, I don't think they would have had the opportunity to explore themselves and that lifestyle to the
Mhm.
fullest of where they are now, because they wouldn't have had the outlet, and it would have been in a closed community, which wouldn't have accepted. Ironically, they wouldn't have been accepted in the community that is now claiming that they are the victims of oppression and non
Mhm.
acceptance. So I think that that's a ironic point. But
Yeah.
Mary, and then, again, I think that when she's looking at it, she's saying that, because I agree with you on the point that Mary was taking a position that uh, Leon didn't know. She was ignorant of how the world worked,
Mhm.
and out of that ignorance bore naivete, and she was going to show her. I'm going to
Mhm.
teach you how this world works and how
Mhm.
messed up this world can be.
Mhm.
And that's, it's there is a point where you try to teach them so that they don't have to learn the hard way, but it
Yeah.
doesn't help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't help.
Yeah. And I think the whole story arc of Mary and Leon's relationship is a good representation of where the general Christian church should be going. I think is going, but is a good example of where it should be going. Not getting stuck on the dogma, not getting stuck on one little thing, one sentence that was written back here. And I feel like in society, we often gravitate, we like parameters, we like rules, we like to know how to live within the parameters. So because of that, oftentimes in faith, which is a, a different thing, it's a spiritual thing, people still want to put it into a box and say, in order to have this faith, you have to do A, B, C, and D. Here's the pie chart. You need to spend so much time doing this and tithe this much and attend services and follow these rules and do A, B, C, and D. Then you are a good Christian. And Mary is showing that that's not the point of it all. The whole point of it all is love. That's the bottom. That's the
Right,
theme that goes through the book. That's what we're supposed to get out of it. Love everybody. And
right,
we're getting stuck in this persecution of people, not persecuting other people, mind you. The Bible says way more about divorce than it says about homosexuality. The church is silent on divorce.
hmm,
Why? Because 50% of Americans are divorced, and there would go the congregations if they
right,
started
right,
preaching up at the pulpit about how sinful you are living each day in sin if you are divorced. Now, again, there are, exceptions also provided in the Bible for abuse and for um, et cetera, et cetera. But that being said, just in general, like falling out of love, I'm going to get divorced. It's not condoned in the Bible, but yeah, we're getting stuck on this one aspect of it. So Mary has done a beautiful job of showing this is where I started. This is my faith, to the point that when my daughter came out, not
so,
transitioned, just came out as gay,
huh?
she had zero, her facial affect,
Oh,
no opinion.
uh, well, just, oh no, good, good.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, yeah, I was just talking to somebody. Good,
Okay.
good, you're good.
Okay. Um,
Uh,
so she
just
had
leave a
no
message.
reaction whatsoever. And she went from that all the way to being extremely supportive and embracing Leon and embracing her lifestyle and just showing her love. And I
Right,
think that's the beautiful part of this whole story that we can see, is that, like, yeah, get rid of all the dogma, get rid of all the, like, let's get back to the basics. And so that's what I love about, and that doesn't come out in this chapter, but just since we're talking about it here in Mary's perspective, and you can clearly see that Mary is not in touch. She thinks she's so in touch with her daughter in this situation, and so not in touch, like completely misunderstanding where Leon's coming from and what Leon's thinking in this given situation, and to go all the way now to being, I don't know, probably the most accepting, for sure. I think Christine's pretty accepting too. Janelle probably is as well.
right.
Robin and Cody, I would say not so much. But then again, I don't know. I'm not in their houses to know exactly.
Mm.
But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because there's a lot of her talking about Leon in this chapter, and about persecution and wanting to protect Leon in that. And I think the parallels of the whole chapter really being about being persecuted out in the world for our faith. I think a lot of that got let go when she realized what real persecution was, is now what Leon is going through.
Yeah, that's kind of the weird part about it too, is that be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. Like that's one of the weird. I want her to know what persecution is really like, and then all of a sudden, my name is Leon, and I'm yeah, I know exactly what it's like. I know exactly what they're going through, and that's one of the weird places that I think that Mary will finds herself, especially when she's having this particular conversation. And I don't think that, I think that people are a lot more accepting of situations than folks are willing to give credit for. Like I've traveled a lot, doing different things. I've traveled a lot, different places. And one of the things that I found to be consistently true about most people that you encounter, no matter where they are or what they're doing, is essentially they want the same thing. They want security for themselves and their family. They want to make sure that everybody that they love is taken care of, and they want to make sure that everybody whom they have a duty to or is responsible for is in a situation where they have the best life possible. They want their kids to have the best life possible, their spouses or whatever to have the best life possible. And this crosses against like whether it's racial, ethnic, financial, barriers or borders or whatever. It crosses all those lines. They all basically want the same thing. So when they say that so many people will be prejudiced against them because of the marital or relationship choices that they make, I think that they kind of cut themselves short of experiencing having those full experiences. Like like she said that there were a few people who were in her life. She didn't tell them everything about herself, and because she didn't tell them about, like, I would imagine that if you didn't tell them about your home makeup, that means that when you had parties at your house, or you had cookouts, barbecues, depending on how you get down, picnics, whatever, or you had family outings and you were going to bring the friends in, those are friends that you didn't invite. Not because they're bad friends or they're bad people, but you didn't invite those people because you were afraid of how they would see your family, or they would find out the truth about your family. You had a problem with that. And so you're cutting some of these relationships short, not because they're prejudiced, but because of your fear that they may be prejudiced. And that in itself is a problem.
Yeah. James, you went silent again.
Oh, did I? No.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I stopped talking. Just stop talking. Yeah, but I think that was kind of where I was with a lot of this stuff. And then, like I said, it's and it does seem like there's a kind of a hit on the LDS faith.
Yeah.
Which I kind of get from the perspective of when, like, for instance, when Madison and I think somebody else tried to join the LDS church, and they were told, Madison specifically started going to a lot of the services and this and other, and they told her directly, like, you have to disassociate yourself from your family because we can't have you in the church because it's a bad example. I get it that there are people who you may have experiences with, their faith to your faith, and they might not like you because of that. I get it. I get it. But at the same time, it does seem like she harbors a lot of that distrust, and that dislike isn't one-sided. It feels, at least the way it's written in the book, it feels kind of like it goes two ways. That's a two-way street.
Yeah.
She doesn't like them and they don't like me. I like them because they don't like me.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it
Yeah.
isn't that just part of life too? This whole victimhood mentality that they keep touting and pushing forward. It's like we're all persecuted and judged in certain ways and at certain times. Like it's just part of life. There are people who aren't going to like you because of different parts of who you are or what what you are. I remember when I was like around college age, I was at a um, well, I was aware of security in stores because I had done a part-time summer job where I was one of those uh, deli demonstrators in the grocery store. They would
Okay.
like cook up the sausage and cut it up and serve it and that.
Hmm.
And as I was there, and what I learned from some of the other demo ladies there were who the security guards were that were the plainclothes shoppers that
Right.
were really security guards and that were walking around. And so I would just watch them because it was interesting to me. I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. And see how they interacted and how they would kind of follow certain people. Like, there was a pattern to it. And when they kind of had a hunch that something was going to go awry and how they would smell the fruits and, and how they would kind of be in the vicinity, but not be right on top of them. And so by learning that, I was very aware during college when I was home at one point. I was at the mall and I was shopping in one of the department stores looking for something in particular. I don't remember what, but I remember looking through the clothes and that, and there was very few people there. And so there was one lady nearby. And then I stopped and I went to another area and there was a lady. And then I went to another area and the lady was a little further off. And the way she was kind of like looking through the clothes, but not really looking through the clothes, it was so obvious. Like I could just match it to exactly how the security guard was acting. But in that situation, I didn't go, oh, what? Because I'm in my 20s? You think I'm going to steal something? Like it's just like I didn't like, oh, what? Because I'm a woman? I'm going to like, I need to.
Right.
I
Right.
did, I just found it funny, actually, kind of at the point, and I just thought, I could keep this going all day if I wanted, and just have her keep
Right.
following
Right.
me around and look for something. But I had something to do. So we've all been in situations. We've all been judged for whatever it is about us. And I guess that's what bothers me about it too. It's like they find one little thing and they're like, you know what? Here's an incident.
Hmm.
Let me give you this one incident. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever told anybody that story besides my husband about how
Right.
I was being followed around there, because I didn't take it personally. Oh, you know what? They're doing their job, whatever, so they targeted
Right.
me as the person who's going to steal something here out of the rest of the people that are here. I get it. Whatever. I'm the demographic out of the women who are here, but you don't know. I would never do that. So you might want to
Right.
just look at
Well,
some of these other ladies.
right. Right. The
We're
ironic part is the
kind, but all right, whatever. So it's situations like that as I read through this, I just think, again, we talk about this one tiny specific example, but then we'll say, oh, there's lots of other examples, but you don't really ever hear of any. I really believe if there were lots of
right.
other examples, we'd know what they were because they would make a point to list them and give us lots of examples of them. I just don't think that they were as persecuted as they like to project that they were, and maybe that they think they actually were.
Right. Right. Well, because I think that there is a certain level of power in persecution, or at least a perceived power in persecution.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have an oppressed group and they're talking about their oppression, they if they get any recognition for the things for their experiences, then it's perceived as, oh, they must have some type of power, they have some type of favor. That's not the case. In most cases, if you're talking about your situation where something bad has happened to you, or somebody has misjudged you, we'll say that somebody has misjudged you, or whatever the case may be, then you find yourself in a situation where you're talking about your experience, you're talking about what you learned from it, but you aren't necessarily saying, and because of that experience, I now have something over you. It's
Mm-hmm.
just an experience, and
Yeah.
you're just sharing your experience. There's no power in it. So to think that you're gaining favor, and this is where I think that because we can even get into that, like because this is where Robin and Cody kind of fall on their swords a little bit because they all have always, or at least from season two, well, towards the end of season one, but really in starting in season two, they really started pushing the idea notion that the fans don't understand Robin. You misjudged her. She's actually a really good person, and she's so sensitive, and you guys are victimizing her. And she's being victimized not only by the fans, but she's being victimized by the sister wives, and she's being mistreated by all these people, and it's not fair. And this is what you need to do, and therefore, this is why you should like her, and she should be the most popular person on the show.
Mm.
And I think that it falls short because you can talk about the experiences that she had, even if she was being ridiculed or made fun of or put down or denigrated by the sister wives. You can talk about her experiences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I like her more. And even if I do like her more, what does that really mean? There's no advantage in that. And I think that that's kind of the lost part of it, is that there's a perceived advantage in that victimhood, but it's not a real advantage. You're just talking about your experience.
Yeah.
I remember there's one point where I'll talk about a time where somebody misjudged me. When I was story time, when I was a young guy, not a young guy. Actually, I was. It was that long ago. I was in a bar and I was hanging out doing karaoke. So I guess it was probably about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And there was a guy, I talk to people. I'm a talker. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for my turn and I'm talking to this guy. And, he's been hanging out with me all night. And then he goes on to tell me about, I guess, seeing me, my size, my stature, or whatever. He assumes that I'm one type of person. And he starts to tell me about how he owns this karate school down the street, and he's a black belt. He owns this karate school, and he be doing this, that, and the other, be beating all these people up. And the ironic part about it is that the karate school that was down the street was actually part of a kind of a franchise. It was like several schools that were owned by the guy who owned that school. And I personally knew the guy who owned the school. Like, I'm friends with the guy who owns the school. Like, we're good buddies. Like, I've been to that school. I've competed with that school and all kinds of stuff. I've done a lot of things with that school. So I know everybody in the school who owns those other karate studios. And it was just the fact that, like, on its surface, it was kind of funny to me that he would tell me a lie about being this tough guy who knows all this martial arts and he beats all these people up because he owns his own karate school. On the other side of it, it occurred to me that he only did that because of my size and maybe because I'm a black guy, maybe, but certainly because of my size. That he thought that it would be impressive to me if he could tell me stories about how he could beat people up. I'm not the guy who likes causing a lot of problems. I go out, I like to have a chill time. I don't like going out finding people I can fight with. And that's not my thing. So if you tell me that you're a tough guy, that's not fun to me. You put yourself on the don't, no fly list with me because I don't want to go out and fight people. Two, the fact that you felt like you needed to tell me that, and this is why I was saying that, this is where it becomes like you as the person who is the outside person can get in their feelings. I felt a certain kind of way because you felt like you needed to tell me this to be my friend or for me to like you. This is a lie. You told me that you felt like, you couldn't fit in with me. You couldn't sit in a bar with me and just sit here and talk at person to person, man to man about anything unless we have this thing in common. We don't have to have this thing in common. And I say all that to say that when I listen to Meri talk about it, you don't have to be the subject of prejudice for you to say that you didn't feel comfortable revealing who you were. I understand that it could be a scary thing for you to tell people that you are a part of a polygamous family. I understand that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be the victim of all this outside scrutiny and the society is coming down. You don't have to be all those things. I felt like I wouldn't be accepted. I was scared. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just as valid. I was scared. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It's part of all of our lives. We've all been there for one reason or another at some point. And you certainly don't have to say it over again and again and again and again. It's like, all right, let's find something else to talk about.
Right. Like, you just don't have to, and I kind of feel that way with her. Like, even when, like you were saying, like when they go out and they do the cringe thing, oh, we all share more than just menus. We share husband, meaning we're all sleeping with him. Like, yeah, cool. TMI. Like, I don't even know about your sex life. And again, like one of my pet peeves is that they would always say things like that. Oh, we all, when like they did the reception. Oh, if you guys don't mind sharing, oh, we share more than the menu. Turn. But if the lady would have said something in response to that or in tandem to that, then all of a sudden it would have been the most offensive thing. How can she talk about our sexuality? We're very private about those kind of things. Like, if you put it on the table, it's on the table. Like, that's how I roll. I don't know about you. Like, that's how I roll. If you tell me a dirty joke, then the door's open. Like, it's dirty joke season. You know what I mean? If you want to cuss, I can cuss too. Like, we can do some cussing fools. You know. But you can't cuss at me and tell me like, farkanugan, and then as soon as I say a dirty word, then all of a sudden it's whoa. Whoa, who are you? Whoa, you disrespecting me. Like, are you serious?
Are you for real?
Right. This is not appropriate. Like, I don't do that. So.
Oh. It starts to eventually. This is where the chapter kind of takes a turn. So now there's like a tiny little paragraph about being a celebrity. But you know what? Actually, this celebrity thing, as it goes into, and I have a couple notes as this chapter goes on about this. I have a few things that I've been commenting about, but I do know that I found it funny that Meri at one point seems to take credit for Tim Gibbons, the producer, and the show going on the air. So not herself, but her and Cody. When really it was Christine was the one who was the precipice for getting the show going. Christine's the one that was in the Voices of Reason group and was getting on shows and was being interviewed. And that he said, I think your family would be interesting. And therefore she connected him with Cody. I don't ever remember Meri's name being mentioned in that story from Christine's point of view. So I find it funny how Meri has a lot of, okay, so where is it? I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but I know that I underlined it here. How?
Oh, it's on 211.
211. It's back a little bit.
Talked for more than a year about wanting to do something to show that plural marriage can be so much more than what we was usually portrayed in the media.
Yes. She says, I guess I started to believe that our story was worth telling, and I contemplated long and hard over my decision. Eventually, I also felt the call to go public with our story. It just took a little bit longer than it did Cody, but in the end, I agreed to do the show, and I prayed for the best. Like, zero mention of any sister wives. She goes on, and it's all about her and Cody and how they came to it and how he came to the decision first. And, again, he believed that he was called by God. And what did he say here? She thought that Cody would just drop the idea because he always has these pie and sky ideas that amount to nothing in the end. So she thought this was just going to be another one of those. And she said, soon his discussions of doing a television program went from abstract to serious. And Cody felt that he was truly called to the cause. And I'm just like, oh yeah, you know what? He did damage to the cause, really. So he wasn't called to the cause. So all these callings that we keep hearing about, like, just stop with it. All of these, God told me, no, he didn't. He did not tell you to ruin the lives of all of these women and these children and just make a mess out of everything. Everything was going fine. before the television cameras came in. And anyone with half a brain would know that once you're going to enter cameras into the picture, there's going to be problems. But he felt a calling to the show. And it to me, I have just a lot of notes in here on the side that, like, you know what? He also felt a calling to have 4 wives. Yeah, that didn't work out, did it? So like, no. So all these callings, all these little things that he's hearing, none of it is true. You can't believe any of it. And I just find it convenient for him that whatever Cody wants to do, all he has to do is say, I prayed about it and I feel called to this. I feel like God told me that this is the way we're going to be going, and then everyone falls. Like, I mean, they really have this faith built up in such a way that he can decide to do pretty much anything he wants as long as he can find like some line in scripture and tweak it and morph it like Garrick would do on Seeking Sister Wives and make it support whatever his distorted idea or desires or whatever he wants to do. He can eventually have it support him and then just claim it on, oh, I prayed and God spoke to me. And, this is the calling that I'm supposed to do. And I find it funny. Of course, Cody found this to be his calling. We're going to put you on television for millions to watch. Cody's like, yeah, I'm being called to that. Would Cody say anything else? I mean, come on. Really?
Right.
I mean, she was married to him for how many years before this happened? Of course he's going to say he's called to this. I'm getting called to be a celebrity and get lots of money. God told me this is what I'm supposed to do. Right. I'm sorry.
It was a private message.
Yeah.
Because part of my understanding is that the way that they do their faith, and if there's anybody in the LDS or the Mormon faith, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the men are essentially priests in their household. So, for like they have higher prophets, and that will be the leaders of the church. But, it would be the leaders of the church, then down individually, it'd be the leaders of the families, which would be the husbands. And then you have the helpers, which would be the wives, and then obviously under the wives would be the children. So if the husband, like for instance, if when Cody said, I felt it was God telling me that we should move, and Christine retorted by saying, God gave me a different message. Well, my message overrules your message because I am the priest, I am the prophet, I'm the one who's closest to God, and God speaks directly to me, but he only speaks to you through me. And there's a subtle difference there. And I think that that's part of like how, again, this is part of how the control works, because at the same time, we care about what the women think. And the women's perspective is very important to us. Until I want to do something and God told me that we should do this. Well, in her perspective, she disagrees with you. Yeah, but she's a woman.
Right.
So is that kind of that backhand thing? Let me give a big shout out to Chris with the $5 super chat. The Bible states that persecution proves how well you follow Jesus. It makes them special and is like a pacifier. It's kind of an addiction. By BT.
Yeah. And they really embrace that in this faith, don't they? Like,
yeah, they do. Sorry about that. Want to give everybody their props. I appreciate the super chat.
Yeah,
I recognize you. But no, I 100% agree. I think it creates a culture of there's a culture of oppression where you learn to be oppressed, and it puts you in the mindset of oppression where it allows you to continue to perpetuate that same oppression.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, there is a certain what was that? The sacred loneliness. There's a holiness in that suffering. Like the fact that you're suffering, it proves how worthy you are. The more I suffer, the more I go through, then the more the Lord sees that I'm doing this for Him, and He gonna reward me in the end. Like I think it's that part that that's equally creates a bit of awareness of the situation, but it's also disturbing. Like it's
Yeah.
disturbing as hell. That in
Yeah.
order for you to suffer, God doesn't want you to suffer for suffer's sake. Like at least that's my faith. Like I don't think that He puts you
Yeah.
in a situation where He's like, I just want to see you suffer.
Yeah.
I want to see you cry. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't get that whatsoever. It's such a complete, again, misrepresentation, and from my opinion, of what the Bible is. The Bible just basically says there will be suffering in the world. It's not going
Hmm.
to be a utopia. It's just the way it is.
Right.
There's sin in the world, and because there's sin, there's going to be suffering. But when you work through suffering, if you focus on the right thing, and once you get through it, take the lessons that you learned as you went through it and become a better person and move on. That's what it is. It's not that God is like, I'm going to make you really holy. Suffer, like
Right.
I'm
Right.
going to ruin your life so that you become the best person and follower of me there is. Like, it's such a distorted understanding that it's just like, but that again is how they take a little bit of scripture and then say the women can all share the same man because the suffering that they'll experience is going to make them holier and closer to God.
Right, right. It's better for you that you suffer this much. Yeah, I'm actually, and this is the weird part about it, because ironically, in that mindset, you could make the argument if you are the husband, that if you take another wife and your first wife is jealous and upset and envious, and there's a lot of things that she has to go through in order to stay there, she does a lot of crying. I'm actually doing you a favor. I'm actually helping you out. See, I didn't bring these other women in for me. I brought them in for your salvation. Am I being rewarded? Are you thankful for the sacrifices that I'm making? You know what I mean? Am I being celebrated for the choices that I'm doing for the family? No. Instead, I got to sit there and listen to you complain about how I'm spending all my time over at Robin's house.
Yeah. Yeah. You should be grateful that I brought Robin.
Right. Look at all this greatness I'm doing to the family.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something, we'll get to it later too. I was trying to flip through here and see if I could find it really quick, but I know that I underlined and wrote in my notes again, something to that exact effect. She actually comes out and mentions it at one point, and I can't remember exactly what we're talking about, but when we get to it, I'll point it out. When I see it, where I just yet again, another example of, well, just suffer through and you'll be a better person because of it. I wish I could find it now, but I just can't seem to find exactly where it is. But when I come across it, I'll see. But yeah, so now we make this curve to a short little bit where we're going to talk about how exciting it is to go to New York and have people on the streets recognize us and want our pictures, and how, again, there was the victimhood of, and I don't think she's the only one that mentioned this. I think Robin mentioned it in her chapter. Well, maybe Christine as well. I'm not sure. But the whole, we each had our own hotel rooms in this beautiful high-rise hotel in New York, but we didn't get a chance to appreciate it all. They had us busy the whole time doing interviews and everything. I'm like, okay, cry me a river, a victim again, as opposed to just saying, this is something our family would never be able to do. This was an extra special treat, and we're blessed that we had relatives that were able to watch the kids. We brought some of our older ones with us, or however it worked out. But we went and enjoyed ourselves and got to experience life, I always say, like the other half lives, or like whatever, like the other side of the fence. So we got a taste of it for a little bit, and it was so delightful and it was so enjoyable. But no. This great hotel room, but we didn't get to appreciate it because they made us go on interview after interview and talk to people. It's just it just laughed when I read it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Well, that's the draw of, or the reality that you're not on vacation. You're on a work trip.
Yes.
This is a work trip. Absolutely. That's what it is.
Yeah, when I coordinate these events that I go to, at the one hotel that I go to, I always get this king suite. That's just me. But this weekend, my husband was there for the entire weekend because he's a school teacher and he was off for the weekend. But usually he'll come like the first day, help me a little bit in terms of setting things up and that, and then leaves at 5 in the next morning and off to work. And then I don't see him pretty much to the end. So I have this massive king suite, and I keep telling them, like, you don't have to do that. It's like this big upgrade at the hotel, and I'm like, I'm organizing this event with all these conference rooms and all these women and all this everything. I'm not hanging out in my hotel room. This is a work job, like So she's like, "Oh no, we want to treat you." I'm like, "All right." It's not too much of a treat for me. Somebody else might get blessed a little bit more, but I appreciate the thought, So when I'm there, I just try to take it in and go, this is nice. This king bed's delightful. This mattress is heavenly. I get a really good night's sleep. I have plenty of stuff to spread my stuff out in the sweet part of the room where I rarely am. I just walk through it at the end of the night at like midnight. On my way to the bedroom, and then again at 7 in the morning when I'm back up again. But it is what it is. So I like try to appreciate it for what it is. But I realize my goal is not to spend as much time in that room as possible. As lovely as it is, it's not my purpose for being there. I'm there to work for the weekend. And I think that some of them miss that. And they were just like, oh, look at this beautiful hotel room. Why are they keeping us so busy here?
Right. Well, I mean, I think that it's the weird part where story time. Like I had a position where I would have a lot of travel for work, and I have business in Miami and Massachusetts and a lot of different places, and I would spend a lot of time there. But the thing is that when you tell your friends and your family, like, okay, I have to get on a plane and I got to go down to this place or that place, they're thinking like, oh, you get to go down for the sun, surf, the beach, you get to go down for the boulevard and all that. The truth of the matter is that when you go somewhere for work, and if you ever have a friend and you feel jealous because they're going to these exotic places, let me tell you something. When you go to Miami, a conference room in Miami looks just like a conference room in the middle of Oklahoma, looks just like a conference room in Podunk, New York, not New York City, New York State. It looks the same, right? A conference room is a conference room. The only difference is you just have a prettier view on your way to the conference room that you're going to be working out of, or the office building you're going to be working out of. Like it's not as fascinating or as fancy as you think. And maybe if you get lucky, you go to one of these exotic places, maybe if time allows, you get a night where you get to go out and experience some of that atmosphere, maybe. But in some cases, you might work up to the day that you have to get on a plane. Like you work that night and then you have to get up early the next day, jump on a plane and come on home. And so that you can go to work or go back into the office. So it's not as exciting as a lot of people think it is. So if you're working with a TV show, guess what? If they're going to put you in a nice hotel because that's what they do. They put you in a nice hotel. They put you in Vegas. You'll be in the Borgata or whatever. You'll be in a nice big hotel, maybe on some of the upper floors, but you aren't going to see that hotel room. You know why? Because you're there to make them money. Like, they're going to spend a little money on you. And depending on how much money you're making them, that might determine how big and nice your room is. But you're never going to see it. You know what I mean? Because you got to make that paper for them.
Yeah. Yep. I find there's one line on that same page that I was on when she was talking about looking like a TV star, how she wakes up in perfect hair and makeup in the morning so she looks like a TV star for the camera when it comes in. I usually write in the margins dig every time I feel like one of the wives is throwing a dig at another one. Right. I swear she said something to the effect of Christine doesn't, but I can't remember right now. I do know she said that Christine doesn't have a hard time acting for the camera, whereas she finds it more difficult to do that. But I swear she said something about that, but maybe I'm wrong. But she does. Did she
No,
say that? Did
you're
she say
right.
that? Okay. All right. Yeah.
She is in that same paragraph. She said something to the effect of, "Well, I see the world as black and white, and I am who I am." Whereas
Mm,
the other, like Christine, is more fake. Basically, is what she was saying. But go ahead. Yeah,
basically,
you're
yeah.
right.
So, like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't write dig in the corner, but I remember it, or I remember her saying that. It just makes me laugh every time they're throwing a dig at each other. It's they all do it basically.
Right.
Not as much Janelle. Janelle does it the least, and then Christine does it the second least. But then I would say that Robin does it the most, and Meri does it the second most. But she also adds how they really want drama on the show. And,
Hmm.
um, this is that whole it's not in my nature to sugarcoat things, even for the audience. But I'm like, but you do. She said, on TV and in real life, I can only be my honest self. The Meri you see on the show is the person you'd meet face to face. But then later on, she goes on to deny this,
Right.
saying, what you see on the show is not who we are at all.
Right.
There's a complete contradiction. So I don't know if she was trying at the beginning to be her authentic self and realized this isn't going to work because I don't want to show it, or if this was just some lies at the beginning and then later on says, yeah, it's not. I also think sometimes things that paint all of them not in a positive light will then precipitate them coming onto a talking head interview and saying, well, it's not real life and you're not seeing it how it really is, especially for Cody.
Hmm.
Like, you guys don't understand. You only get a sliver of it. You're not getting a true representation of who we are. This is kind of fake. It's not the real thing. To protect themselves, because when the bad stuff comes to the surface, they don't know how to defend themselves because there's cameras documenting it for
Right.
everybody to see. Oh, but then she goes on and says, well, I love inadvertently underlined, often one of us, and this is talking about the couch interviews, and one of us would inadvertently throw a sister wife or possibly Cody under the bus, publicly airing a grievance that would have been better dealt with in private. And then she starts to go on to how the show exploited, and that's her words, her relationship with Robin. She said they latched on to her struggle with Cody and Robin's courtship, and exploited
Hmm.
it to a major storyline. And I'm like, no, it's a crazy story. They didn't exploit. I mean, it's not exploited at all. They just said what was happening, and it feels
Right.
explosive to all of us because the whole situation seems crazy to most of us. So the fact that she admits back then, and again, we hadn't read the book yet, but she admits early on that she was instrumental in bringing Robin into the family, and then all of a sudden she is not so fond of Robin being in the family is extremely confusing. Why would you
Right.
ever then? Like, because that's where we all come from. Why would you ever? I don't really understand. And you must really love them and really want them to be a part of it. And then as soon as you bring them in, you don't like them anymore, like right away. I could see a decade down
Right.
the
Right.
road or something, but like it doesn't make any sense. So I really wasn't buying the fact that the show was exploiting them. But it was funny how the very next line she says, I really can't blame them. So she's
Right.
like,
Right.
okay.
Well, because I disagree. Like, I think that, like, because I don't know what she's talking about. You know what I mean? Because when I'm watching, I'm doing a rewatch. I've done a rewatch. I think this is the second time
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a rewatch. But doing a rewatch, especially in the earlier seasons, around the time that they were writing this book, the show did not ever create a situation between Robin and Mary and say
Yeah.
that this is a critical linchpin part of the show that we're going to base the entire storyline on. They didn't even talk about the two of them disagreeing.
Mm-mm.
They didn't
Only
talk
in
about
the
the two of them
interviews.
disagreeing.
It
Right?
was
Well, because
the
even
with Savannah Guthrie. No, who was it that was doing the interview? Not Savannah Guthrie. One of the whoever. I think it was the very first season's sit down interview Not the one they did before, because that's the one that was straight on. The one where the gal was sitting on the left and they were sitting on the right. The one where Cody used the ick factor, referring to that interview there. In that one, I think it was that one. Maybe it was the one where we're straight on. In one of those early interviews, it was either before season 1 or at the culmination of season 1. In that interview, Meri was crying. One of those 2 interviews, she was crying, and she was then talking about. So that was the time. So they kept asking questions about it, and then she's just like, "Yeah, I really struggled with it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." But you're absolutely right. They knew more, which means they surprisingly didn't put it on the show. Although early on, it appears that they had a lot of control and they were able to keep a lot of stuff out of the show. So it may have been taped and they didn't have it in the show, but in the interviews they asked about it. But yeah, so they, for whatever reason, purposely chose to leave all of that out of the show. And they clearly had documentation of it and film and tape of it, which goes back.
It wasn't part of the show.
Yes.
It was a part.
How great would it be if we had cutting room floor footage from season 1 through season 18? My goodness, do they want to get advertisers money or not? Do I have to produce this all by myself? I mean, my goodness.
Right.
What do the people want to see? Ideas. I'll tell you what the people want to see. They own that. They have the right. I mean, they were kind to not put some of it on early on, but at this point, I feel like they're completely justified, because here we are 15 years later. Yeah, you can show something from 15 years ago that happened. Oh, come on, TLC, get it together.
TV.
Yes.
But like, I didn't see where that was even a real talking point, because even the way they did it during the course of that interview, it was, yes, sometimes I experience some jealousy and that's normal, but you get over it. And that's how she explained it away. So it wasn't even a thing of like, yeah, I'm jealous as hell. She's stealing my husband. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm being ostracized. I'm being kicked out of the bedroom. He never comes over to my house. I can't get any type of affection. This is ridiculous. Like, that's the conversation that never happened. All she said was, oh yeah, sometimes I get jealous, but that's natural. And we learn to get over it. But that's not on Robin. And she even said, it's not on Robin. That's on me.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's not on her. That's on me. So that's not a problem between you two. That's a problem that you have between you. That's between you and you.
Which is what she wrote in the book too, right? She adds at the very end that this was a very low point for her. And she says, I know that I wasn't being as kind or welcoming to Robin as she could have been. And I just wrote, the guilt that the women carry in this faith. So that was the line that I was thinking of that went with the other thing, that like, I wasn't being as kind of, Christine said the exact same thing. I wasn't being as kind and welcoming to Robin as I could have been. I'm like, I think you were being more than kind and welcoming to bringing another woman into your marriage, quite frankly. But yeah, were you the perfect person? No, neither one of you probably were. But don't beat yourself up by any means for this situation.
Well, you're blowing your family up. That's just what it is. Blowing your family up.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get it. She's blowing your family up. But the one thing I will say is that the one part that always kind of sticks with me, going back to the whole idea of, yeah, they filmed this show and you guys only see part of the show and you don't really understand all the things that go into the show and everything that happens. I get that. And I can even understand that point. But let's not pretend that somehow people who watch the show, and this is how I took it, that you're saying that people who watch the show, they need to get a life. I think she had wrote something like that. They need to get a life instead of worrying about what's going on in my life. That is the basis of your show. People worrying about what's happening in your life is paying for your house, is funding your businesses. The success that you have is based on the fact that people find your life interesting, or at least interesting enough to talk about or watch on Sunday. If people didn't find interest in that thing of watching your life or watching your series and taking a personal interest in it, then you wouldn't have a show.
Yeah.
Your Sundays will be wide open, lady. Wide open. So, and you'd be back in Lehigh, living in a house that you aren't happy with. So, I mean, don't criticize people for that, for one. For two, nobody is forcing you to shoot this. You understood what the game was when you signed up for it. If you didn't, that's shame on you. When you sign up to a reality show, hell, if I sign up to do a movie, if I play a role really, really well, then the people are going to think that I'm that person in
Mm-hmm.
real life. That's just how it works. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that work in Hollywood that you think are really, really nice people or horrible people, but they play a nice guy on TV. There are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that play villains, the most villainous villain on TV or in a movie, and you say that guy is the most cynical, evil person ever, and then you find out they're the nicest people ever walking. They're friendly. They give you the shirt off their back. But in the
Mm-hmm.
movies, they walking down the street just stealing candy from kids and kicking puppies. Like that's just who they are in the movies because they're good actors. And in reality shows, you lose the veneer of being able to say I'm just playing a character because it's supposed to be you and a truthful telling of your life and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to now say, yeah, but you can't judge me on this because it's not a truthful telling of my life and experience, you're undercutting your own success in your own show. And
Right.
if, as much as she talks about being honest and truthful, I'm sorry, I'm kind of on a tangent, but as much as she talks about being honest and truthful, if you're going to be honest and truthful, then you shouldn't participate in a lie. If you're saying now that this is all a lie, and you're an honest person, and in your life is white and black, no gray, then you shouldn't be participating in this show. You should quit tomorrow
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you're not going to. So it is what
Yeah.
it is.
They did learn as time went on, as the show got to the point where they had to take the pay cut and go back, um, and then come back. I think from that point on, after the pay cut part, I think it's when they all learned, let's just lay it all out there. What do we got
Right.
to lose at this point? So I feel like, not that it's
Yeah.
still got all laid out there, especially from the perspective of Janelle. I think she really holds her cards close to her chest. But boy, to see Janelle crack, to see Janelle angry, to see Janelle yell, to see Janelle cry. I mean, the emotions that we finally got to see in these last couple episodes, we saw a lot more authentic Browns than we had seen. And we saw
Right.
that angry side of Cody. It wasn't the goofy, I'm always happy Cody.
Right. Well, actually, because even going back doing a retrospective, the one time that I will say is like the start and the finish, because you did have early on the part where Janelle was crying. Like the one time that she did cry, and it was like bad, was when she was talking about the economic uncertainty of moving to Vegas, and she
Mm.
wasn't sure how they were going to survive financially because she was really worried about the money aspect. And nobody
Yeah.
else could get, we'll just get new houses and we'll buy like new furniture and it'll be great and blah blah blah. But she was really worried about the money part of it because,
Yeah.
like I said, when you're the one who makes the money and earns the money, it goes into, you know, if this costs $1,000, like for us to rent this apartment and furnish it is going to cost us $1,000 to rent it. You know what it takes for you to make $1,000. You know what I mean? Whereas
Mhm.
somebody who might just be sitting at home or chilling, they just see $1,000 or $10,000 in the bank account. They don't know what went into you getting that 10,000 in the bank account. They don't know about the long hours. They don't know about you putting up with the crazy ass manager who always wants you to stay late. And somehow maybe you should clock out and then you could come back and work a little bit.
Mhm.
That's the no. Like you don't know nothing about that. So
Mhm.
for you, oh, it's money. We got money. We got money
Yeah.
to burn. And she was coming from it from a different perspective. But big shout out to Erica MF, $2 super chat. No, they would rather do 5 episodes on Christmas. And she's
Yeah.
talking about the failures of TLC. And I
Yes.
100% agree with her. And because she
Yeah.
made such a good point, I'm, you know what I mean? Because she's absolutely right. TLC will drop the ball. And they've been dropping like they have so many like layups in this series where they could actually make money. Like you said with the found footage, the lost footage. You don't even have to really pay. I mean, if they really want to be dicks about it, pardon my French, but if they really want to be asses or jerks, I'll say that. They really
Yeah.
want to be jerks about it. The way they could do it is they could give them minimal money for those found footage things because it's their tape.
Yeah.
They shot it already. and it's theirs. They can do whatever. When you sign these kind of contracts, please pay attention to the contract, because when you sign this kind of contract, especially for reality shows, because you're not in the union, the Actors Guild, when you sign these contracts, you are signing everything away. Your
Mm-hmm.
likeness, your name, your
Mm-hmm.
voice, and the way the contract is worded, you not only sign it for the term of the show, but for was it all forever and perpetuity
Mm-hmm.
to the ends of all known universe and unknown universe. So like they cover it in such a crazy way that even if they put a colony on Mars and started filming Sister Wives, they can
Yeah.
air your show for free. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just crazy,
Yeah.
and that's where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. They also, I've always thought if they would go back, uh, some of the stuff that I loved was that final season, watching them watch episode 1 and episode or 8, whatever the final was, the finale. So having all of them watch it and comment on it while they were watching it was amazing and priceless. So for them to just film, like if the whole next season they would force them to watch it live the first time and just have a camera on them, they could double the amount of episodes they put out. You can throw that thing on at 3:00 in the morning. People are going to
Right.
watch it. They're going to record it. You're going to at least get the 24-hour replay, or definitely the first 3 days, which is the most important stat that they want to have. The 1 day and then the 3-day total and then the 7-day total. And after that, they don't really care as much. But the amount of people that will be watching that within a 24-hour period of time from it airing. And you know how many of us would be up at 3:00 in the morning watching it, so then we can go ahead and comment on it
Right.
after. We'll comment
Right.
on them commenting on the episode. It would be
Yeah,
amazing.
YouTubers will be on fire.
Yes.
YouTubers be on fire because
Yes.
we'd be a race to the clock to try to.
Up, she went silent again. There you go.
Hello.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my stuff.
Yeah.
Thing.
Keeps muting you.
Yeah, right. Like, shut up, James.
Next topic. Speaking of that,
Yeah,
in
right.
on that same page, it seems that the new thing I do is I go through this book. I always point out words that don't age well. So here in our segment of words that don't age well, we have Meri
Right.
talking about the struggles and, putting things on the show and how it's difficult for them to show real struggles that they're having with each other. But she understands that, it has to happen. And she says, it's also important for it shows the audience that something that seems dysfunctional at the start actually works when you give it some time. Like, it's like ended in 3 divorces.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, if
We'll
there's
look out for you.
words that do not age well, right there.
Right.
Let's prove to them that even though we might have struggles, that this is all going to work out for the betterment and for good, and we'll show everybody. Yeah, not so much.
Well, because I think that was actually a key component of the success of the show in recent years. Is there has been the fact that, because even like when I said first heard about the show, I pretty much had the opinion that there's no way that this is gonna work. There's no way this is gonna work. And when they aired season 16, they went all the way through season 16. They had the whole complication with the catfish and all that stuff. That kind of started the ball rolling. Them asking Meri for the divorce, again, that started the ball rolling. But come season 16, when Christine was like, "That's it, man, I'm done." Like when that came out, all of a sudden people started flooding back because they always knew that this thing was going to fall apart. It was never going to work. It's like when you have a friend who is a part of a relationship, you know it's not going to work, and they keep telling you, "You don't understand our love," and you say, "Okay, all right, I'm just going to sit back here in the cut and I'm just going to watch." And then when it doesn't work, you don't run to your friend and say, "Yeah, I told you so." but you know damn well that you told him so. You know you said something to him that this wasn't going to work and why it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So he just proved everybody right. That's,
Yeah. Yep. We all knew. They didn't know, but we all know.
Right.
I found it interesting that she admits in the book that she didn't watch the honeymoon episode of Robin and Cody, that was too difficult for her, which is interesting because on the show, she is one of the wives that took his phone call. Robin said not all the wives would take his phone calls when they were on their honeymoon. And we did hear him talking to Meri on the phone, but she said that she had chose not to watch it because she felt like they were starting to make progress in their relationship, and watching a romantic setting between him and Robin would just set them back. Yeah.
Well, but isn't that because even on that note, isn't that a point too where you could say that during that time, Robin or Meri and Cody weren't that close. They were having problems at that time. So yeah, like of all the wives, Christine and Janelle, they could afford not to pick up the phone. Meri was in a position where she couldn't afford to not pick up the phone when he called.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so she would feel pressure to be able to say, you call, I'm picking up the phone, I'm gonna talk to him. And maybe now he really wants to have a conversation with you. And that's part of what hurts. Like I can see where that would hurt and cause problems because you're sitting there trying to connect with him, and you're even using the opportunity when he's off with another woman to try to connect with him because you're trying to take every opportunity you can to connect with him. You know, there was actually a scene in the we just did it where Robin was supposed to tell the family that she was having Solomon, and they came over, told Meri, and then Cody came by the house, and Meri and Robin were there. We're like, we'll tell them tonight. And he comes in, and Robin says, yeah, she's already knows, and she's cool with it. Okay, great, we'll tell him. And he's all excited. And Robin cracks the joke that, oh, do you guys want me to step outside the room so you can kiss her? And Cody said no. Like he was like, no. And at that moment, I was like, Meri is in so much trouble with. He was like, no, don't step out the room. We don't need to do that. Yeah. And she turned around and Meri, jumped over and kissed him. And you can see he didn't want to participate in.
Yeah.
So their struggles, like the struggles that she had, ironically, she points out, like, I struggled so much with Robin, and I was so jealous of Robin, and the show exploited that. The truth of the matter is that you struggle with Cody.
Yeah.
You didn't struggle with Robin. You struggled with Cody, but you blamed Robin. You blamed the other woman, which is typical. Like your husband comes home, he jumps on the other man. He don't get mad at his wife. He gets mad at the other man. What are you doing here, sucker? But that other man don't have a commitment to you. Robin didn't commit anything to you. Yeah. Technically, she didn't make a commitment to you. Cody made a commitment to you, and Cody forsaken that commitment. So,
the bill of goods that they sold us at the beginning of the show, because just think, this is right when they moved to Vegas. They were still in the rentals at this time. In fact, I think at that point, were they even in? I think they were just in the big rental. I don't even think they had the individual rentals at that point in the show. If I recall correctly, I'm not 100% sure. But this is early on. They just get to Vegas, basically, because that rental was only for a month. And we see that he and Meri are not doing well at all. And we know that Christine's not doing well. We see that season 1, episode 1 right away. She's just like, I don't understand why we need another sister. Why? She must just be amazing if it's going to work. You can just read it all over her face and her tone of voice and what she says. And she acts like everything's okay. But in those talking heads, she speaks the truth. And then Janelle admits, right when they got to Vegas and they were still in the rentals, that's when she broke down about the finances, about her identity, about her not knowing her place in the world because she enjoys working so much and being fearful of not being able to find a job. And she also says it was the most difficult time that her and Cody had in their marriage, that they were having a very difficult time. So here it's the very beginning of the show. And he
Right.
is on the outs with all three of his wives, and Robin's the only one. It's just, it showed what the future had to hold.
Right. Right. This also predictable, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's also because even as a point of note, I think that when you talk about like Janelle saying that she's struggling with her identity with work, I think that that could also be translated to the identity within the family. Because if I've always taken a position that if she was the chief breadwinner in the family, and that was her role, that was her place, that she brought home the bacon,
Mm-hmm.
and Cody and the wives fried it up in the pan. But
Mm-hmm.
she was the chief breadwinner. To lose that, you lose that sense of self, that sense of identity, that sense of, I don't want to say power, but there is a certain responsibility, a certain heroship that goes along with that, where you can look at yourself and say, I am the hero because I'm the one that's keeping the family on track financially. And then to have that taken away, that would create a situation where she would question her value within the family. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's where Janelle found herself.
Yeah. Poor Janelle.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. But yeah, Mary, like I just think that Mary was in the situation, especially with. I thought it was funny too. Like even around at that point, I thought it was funny that Mary made the point of saying like how she struggled with Robin and how much emphasis was placed on it. I think that this is kind of the isn't as much the canary in the coal mine as it is her own uh her own insecurities in the relationship. She pushed it off on the TLC, the production staff at TLC, as well as the viewers. Like you guys took on so much interest in how me and Robin had struggled. Were you struggling? I didn't know because TLC never really told us. It wasn't a major plot point that you were struggling with Robin. If
Yeah.
anything, it was more of a plot point that Christine had been struggling with Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And they made more of a point of saying that than
Mm-hmm.
for them to ever say that Mary had struggled with Robin. If anything, by that time they had held out that Mary and Robin were best as friends,
Mm-hmm.
and Mary was the only true friend that Robin had. If anything, TLC, and this is the weird part about the propaganda program, is that TLC had held out that Mary and Robin had got along so well because Mary was providing cover for Robin. Because if none of the wives accepted Robin, then that would mean the only person who accepted Robin was Cody, which would mean that her disruption was Cody's fault, and the fact that she is in fact a disruption.
Mm-hmm.
Because if none of the wives want her there, and Cody's the only one who wants her there, then she's a disruption to the family, and she
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely true. Later on that page, there's a little paragraph that completely agrees with what you were saying before and what we were talking about in terms of what's worse, admitting that you're polygamist or admitting that you've kept a secret to somebody who you considered a very good friend for this period of time. And she goes on saying, I was working at a rehab center for troubled youth. I was in a situation where I felt it was best to keep my family and my religious beliefs to myself. When one of my co-workers read the article, she was shocked, not because of my beliefs, but because I hadn't been open with her. And she said, I had no idea that you had this lifestyle. And then and Mary admits the fact that I was a sister wife didn't bother her at all.
Right.
She still accepted me as her friend. I'm like, yeah, it is way more offensive that somebody is a liar to you than finding out that they choose to live a certain lifestyle.
Right.
I don't understand. They're not even comparable in my world, but apparently they found it more important back then. They just kept holding on to old beliefs that nobody's ever going to understand or accept us, and we're all going to go to jail and their family's going to get broken up. And they just went with that mantra and they wouldn't let go.
Right. It was all gonna be bad. It's all bad. Well, because I think that that's a huge point too, is that it begs the difference, begs the question as well, because sometimes people get so wrapped up in the oppression Olympics, the actual oppression starts to define you as just as much as the thing that you're supposedly oppressed by. or oppressed for. So growing up polygamous, growing up Mormon, growing up in AUB, then yes, that would define who you are. But the fact that so many people dislike you because of that, all of a sudden it becomes a question of they don't like me because of this thing, and that's who I am. I'm the person who's not liked. I'm the most hated person here. I'm the person that everybody will be disgusted by. And that becomes who you are. That becomes your identity just as much as the supposed thing that you're being uh, bigoted against. And I think that when it comes to Mary and her friends, that's the pivotal part. Like you were so worried about being that person that nobody liked that you didn't allow me to express my dislike to you. And instead, like I would, if I'm your friend, I'm your friend. I'm your friend. I'm not friends of your. I don't go to your church. I don't care what you do in your church as long as you don't involve that. You know, if you have a belief system that I disagree with, then it is what it is. In which case, we probably shouldn't be friends anyway.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Like there's a misunderstanding of what a friend is. I think sometimes like there's friends and there are acquaintances and there's just people who happen to be in your life. And I think a lot of these people just happen to be in their lives because if you really are a friend, then nothing else matters. You're always there for that person. You ride with them through thick and thin. And this is not a big deal.
Right. This is the equivalent of, and I know that they draw this comparison as well, so I don't feel as bad about it. But this to the way they present it is the equivalent of like when I was in high school, I had friends or a couple guys I knew that were gay dudes, like, and they never came out, and when they did come out, it was like, oh, I'm revealing, and it was like, bro, I already knew that.
Yeah.
I do. I might have known before you do. You know, but it's a weird thing because, you know, if you think I'm not going to be your friend because of that, then you don't know me. Like forget me knowing you. You don't know me. You know, and that hurt. That would hurt me more than anything else. Like if you thought I would stop being your friend because of who you choose to go home with, then you don't know who I am. Yeah. Like we're not as close as I thought. Yes. I was wrong not because of that. I'm wrong because of you don't understand who I am. Our friendship isn't nowhere near where I thought our friendship was going to be.
Absolutely. It would be the same thing if like a kid wouldn't share things with you because of fear of being disowned or being, you know, like because they know you believe one way or another. Well, do you not know that I love you more than anything? You know, like that overrides absolutely anything you could do. I will visit you in prison. Like no matter what you do, I will still love you. And it's the same thing with a friendship. Absolutely. If I had a friend that was like keeping all these secrets from me because they thought that I would think different of them, then I'd be like, well, then are we friends? You know, like I thought we were. But if you think that I would think that of you, then you think different of me than I think of you.
Right.
Yeah.
You have no idea. It even goes to the point of like, if you think that I would, you know, I wouldn't befriend you because of who you are, then not only am I not the person who you think I am, I'm not, you know, I wouldn't be worthy of your friendship. If I would betray you because you're married to somebody who I might disagree with, then I might not be worthy of your friendship. One, two, maybe you're not worthy of my friendship because you think that I'm a lesser person than I am. And you know what? The weird just occurred to me. Best way to say it. If you think that I would not be your friend because of, if I had a friend and, like I said, they were part of the LGBTQ community, and they think that I wouldn't be their friend because they're part of the LGBT, so they hide that from me, then I have to ask the question, and here's the turnaround. I have to ask the question, do I want to be your friend? Because you apparently were cool with a guy who you thought wouldn't be your friend if you're part of that community. Yeah. And this is like and I used the basis of years ago, there was I knew a young lady, story time. I know a young lady and it was when me and my wife first started dating. We were date steady, like we were boyfriend girlfriend, whatever you want to call it. We were in a relationship, and I knew this young lady, and we were cool. And she had said to me one evening when we were hanging out, and she said, "Oh well, I wouldn't mind dating you, or for us to go out, or whatever." And she didn't
Mhm.
necessarily say it that way, but she, roundabout. It is what it is. And I said, well, the reality of it is that one, I'm already in a relationship, and two, if I did that, that I would cease being the person that you find attractive, because
Mhm.
I'm the kind of person who doesn't do that, and
Mhm.
that's what you find attractive. But if I do what you're asking me to do, then I
Mhm.
stop being that person. I'm no
Yeah.
longer that person. You know what I mean? So it's a
Yeah.
weird place. It's a
Yeah.
very weird place, and I think that that's where it would be with me if I was sitting there and talking to Mary. Like if you
Mhm.
are friends with me because you thought I wouldn't be friends with you, then I'm
Yeah.
kind of in a weird place because do I want to be friends with somebody who would be cool with a person like that? You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. I told that exact same situation to one of my daughters who was dating a guy who I wasn't so fond of, and
mhm.
she knew it.
And Mama's always right.
Um, yep, mom knows. Mama knows.
uh
He's no longer in the picture, but it lasted years. And I
huh.
remember, like talking to her about like self-esteem and all that, like this is like, why do you feel that this is the right thing? And then matching up. And then I was finally at the point of saying, if you have an ideal of characteristics and qualities that you have that you want in a man, and this guy's not meeting it, so you're like, well, no one's perfect, so like he's pretty good, he's a nice guy, all that, you're never gonna get this guy because you're dating this guy right now. He's
Right.
not gonna
Right.
let you know that he's interested in you because that's not the kind of guy you want that's gonna
Right.
come
Right.
and you have to let yourself be free to be open to the right guy because that guy is never going to approach you while you're in a
Right.
relationship with somebody else. And, the one that does approach you is not going to be the right guy. So it's the
Right.
exact
Right.
same thing. Yes. Yes.
No, I
And
agree with
luckily she
that.
broke up with him and she found the right guy.
Right, right, and that's the way it works. Because, I always say that too. Like I've said that for years. Like you spend your time, you'll waste your time on somebody because you want to have somebody, but because you're with that somebody, you're not open to the next person who's
Right.
coming down the pike. The person you should be with, you're not open
Mhm.
to them, and
Mhm.
you can mess around and miss a lot of opportunities with
Mhm.
those good people because you're wasting your time on them bad ones. So cut
Mhm.
them bad ones out of your situation and
Mhm.
focus on yourself, and then eventually, and be open to the possibility that you will eventually meet the type of person that you want to be with, as
Yeah.
opposed to you locking yourself into somebody. Because as they said when I was a kid, when you settle for something or someone, you always get less than you settle for.
Yeah.
That just as a general rule. So if you settle for a guy, well, he ain't perfect. I mean, he only cheats sometimes, and yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
he only
right.
tries to sleep with some of my friends,
Yeah. It's
then
true.
you settle for that, and then it's okay. But you're never going to be happy because he's not even going to meet that expectation. When
Mhm.
you set that lower that bar, he's not even hitting that bar anymore
Yeah.
because before he was really trying and he was failing.
Mhm. Mhm.
What happens when he gets complacent? Like you're in
Yeah.
real trouble then.
What makes you think this is going to be lasting a lifetime? So, come
Right,
on.
right.
Let's not play
You
around
thought it
anymore.
was going right. You thought it was going to get better.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, but they talk about like the because towards the end they start talking about like the high rise hotels and
Mhm.
meeting Ellen, Oprah, and Matthew McConaughey,
Yes.
and she was so embarrassed because Robin and Christine started acting like schoolgirls, and that actually is more, yeah, yeah, that's actually more revealing than anything else. Because what
Uh-huh.
difference does it make? You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like
Right.
if I met your celebrity crush, everybody has like this like, wow, I don't really have a celebrity crush. But if you have a celebrity crush and you're like, oh, the celebrity crush. I meet them, and they're so amazing. Like, okay, so what? You meet them? It's not like you're going home with them, right?
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
happily married.
Yeah. It does seem like there's a distorted reality here that she kind of felt like, well, maybe he'll be my friend,
Right, right,
but now it's ruined because Robin and Christine were acting a fool and acting childish around him. And now I'm so embarrassed. You
right,
don't need to be embarrassed. They're separate people from you. Were you okay when you met him? Then everything is fine. But
right.
somehow it does read kind of like they ruined her chance at love with Matthew McConaughey.
Right. He would have found me interested had they not been there. Like
Mm-hmm.
Matthew McConaughey, I'll say this, like just as a general rule, if somebody is interested in you, it doesn't matter what your friend does. It doesn't make a difference. Your friend
Mm-hmm.
could be there acting an ass, wearing
Mm-hmm.
clown makeup. Yeah, if that
Yeah.
person is interested in you, they don't care. They don't even know what your friend is wearing if they're
Mm-hmm.
interested in you. So that if Matthew
Mm-hmm.
McConaughey was going to be your friend or he wanted to date you, he would have gotten your phone number. Like you're cool, they're kind of weird.
Yeah.
We can hang out. Just don't bring them,
Yeah.
and that would have been that. You
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely.
But,
In fact, he will embrace those weird friends because they like to go through the friends to getting good with the
right, right,
person they're interested in. So, quite
right,
frankly, he would be like, hey, crazy girls.
right. Let's get crazy
Yeah,
together.
I'll be crazy if that's what I need to because I really like that girl over there that's a friend of yours.
Right.
So, they didn't ruin anything.
No, no, no. And if anything, like, and Matthew McConaughey has been he's been an A-list celebrity
Mhm,
because even though the title of this chapter is celebrity,
mhm,
there's a difference between their level of celebrity. Matthew McConaughey, hands down, is the A-list celebrity.
mhm,
You guys are not even really D-list celebrities, especially at
mhm.
this time. You're more like E-list or what I'll call R-list celebrities. You're reality
Yeah,
celebrities or people on reality shows. People know who you are, but you aren't famous.
yeah,
Famous. So
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
completely agree. Yeah,
yeah. He wasn't going to. Matthew McConaughey wasn't going to change your life. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Change
no,
my life, Matthew. He wasn't sweeping you away from
yeah.
a polygamous family.
And we found
It
out in
wasn't going
these
to happen.
last seasons that that is her celebrity crush. So that's why she was
Right.
all embarrassed. So obviously, she had a little crush on him, and she thought they ruined it for her.
Right, right. And what's weird? It's the idea that like because I get it. Like you'll meet people that you might know, and you'll look at it like, oh, he's so cool. I gotta lay back and play cool, and I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna hang back and not say a whole lot and just smile and nod and that way I'm not embarrassing myself. The truth of the matter is, if you pull Matthew McConaughey aside today and ask him, do you remember when you met the sister wives from TLC? He very well may look you in the face and say, who?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Sister
And
who?
if he does remember anything, he's going to be like, I remember those goofy girls. He's not
Right,
going to
right, right,
remember the one that sat there really quiet and was like, hi. Yeah, no. He's going to remember the
right,
crazy ones. He's like, oh, those crazy ones that kept like laughing and giggling and falling all over herself. Yeah, they were cute. They were like,
right.
excited to see me. It was flattering. Yeah, that's what he'll remember.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
He'll be there was a weird one there that just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
That's a part of it too. Is that when you're super quiet, nobody trusts you. Like she just kept staring at me. I didn't know what was going on. I, tried to talk to her, but she just was real standoffish.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think she liked me.
It's not the way to land a man, that's for sure.
Right? Don't be
Um,
shy.
I did like near the end of that page, near the end of this chapter, her saying she was talking about negative publicity that comes all
Mm,
their way. And she knows that there's lots of unpleasant things that are said about her marriage, her weight, her hair, any number of things. And she says, my way of dealing with it, I choose to ignore the polls and commentary on the internet about our show and family members. I have more important things to do with my time. And I just wrote, good for you. Yes, I hope this is true. I hope that she
right.
does look the other way. Um, and not take the time to look at all of that stuff and realize, okay, there's going to be negative stuff that comes out. So be it. I'm just going to move on. And I find it's interesting because we also know that the wives comment on each other's chapters and that too. Robin in her chapter specifically mentions that she always comes last in the polls and it bothers her. So Robin, very much aware. So this could be a dig towards Robin that basically says, listen, I don't have time. I've got my life to live. I'm not monitoring the polls on who is the most popular, famous, or liked sister wife of them all. So I hope that's true. I just wrote, good for you, Meri. I hope that's true.
Well, because I mean, in fairness, though, Robin, if predictions are right, for especially from YouTubers, I'll say me. If my prediction is right, then Robin uprooted her entire life and family to pursue a man so that she could get onto TV and she could become famous. So yeah, she would be concerned about whether people like her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is her goal. Her goal was to get on TV, get liked, get noticed, get liked, and then hopefully start a career moving forward from there. And then you keep falling at the bottom of the pile, especially the people who may not want to be famous. That hurts more, not less. Like, oh, I'm really trying to be famous, and here I am doing everything I possibly can to get noticed, and here you are, don't give a damn, out here acting an ass every chance you get, and you keep getting calls from directors and producers and People Magazine and this one and that one to put you on the cover of a magazine. But the only time they put me on the cover is when they talk about how I blew the family up. Yeah, I would be mad too. You know what I mean? In fairness, I would be mad too.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That has to hurt her ego more than absolutely anything. And you're right. That's all she wanted. She wants to be famous. She wants to make money from all of it. None of the stuff she really wanted came true, except for that she got the guy. I don't believe she ever really wanted to be a sister wife. I think she wanted to be a sister wife on a sister wife show. Right. But I don't think that she really cared about being a sister wife. She just wanted to get the guy who could support her in a way that she wouldn't have to work anymore and she could still buy everything that she wanted to buy. And then she wanted to be popular. She wanted to be on television, be popular, get on Oprah, have a best-selling book. I mean, all these are things that celebrities do that she wanted. And it didn't work out well for her at all. I feel like her even trying to make it better makes it worse because she's so easy to read through.
Right. Well, because it's not smartly done. 1, 2, because she's so it's so clumsy. She approaches it so clumsily that you're trying to get people you're trying to say the right thing. You're trying to appeal to people. Anywhere you think that you can get a leg up or a way into people liking you, that's what you're doing. And it turns people off. And then you don't understand why it turns people off. Like, people just don't want to, I don't want to see that. I just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's, and again, I can see that. Like, to be honest with you, I pose this question to you. Let me ask you this question. Do you think if a producer, say when the first show first started in that first season, they watched Robin and Cody, and TLC said, you know what? This Robin, with all the Brown family, this could be a show. But that damn Robin Brown, there's something about her. If we could get her to just have her own show, just her and the kids, I think that would be fascinating. And TLC said that, especially if they would have said, we're going to put that in the slot of Sister Wives. It'll be single mom, Robin Brown, or Robin Sullivan. That was her name at the time. Yeah. She had so many names. But Robin Sullivan. Do you think Robin would have stayed with it? No, this is where I need to be because I spoke to the Lord. Or do you think that Robin would have packed the bag? You know what I mean?
100%. She would be on the Robin Sullivan show.
Right.
I 100% believe that. I really do. I think that she would be like, yeah, the single polygamous woman who doesn't have a polygamous family searching for love out there in the world. Yes, she would have taken that, and she would have been like, even if she was like really dating Cody at the time, she'd have been like, oh, we do have some problems. My dad, she could get her dad, or bio, not real dad or stepdad or whatever dad you want to call him, to say, yeah, no, I don't approve of this, so that she can go this
Right.
other way, and she could have Cody be one of the quarters of her, so that she has him in her back pocket in the event it becomes a sister wife show eventually, and then she can go ahead and marry into that family, and she'll migrate from one show into the other when the other one closes down. Like, I think she would keep every iron in the fire, but absolutely would not have married him or accepted an engagement if she had a
Right.
show of her own that was out there. That's what I believe. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I don't think that. No, I don't think the phone call would have been over before she started texting Cody. It's over. Like, we're
Yep.
thinking about giving you your own show. Hold on for a second. Yeah, Cody, I'm having difficulties. This ain't working. And then she hit her with the, it's not you, it's me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 I
Yeah,
wouldn't even think she'd say that. I think she'd blame it on her dad, and so that she still had an out. So she still had an
right.
avenue to go that way, knowing that they were thinking about the sister wife show. Oh, that's something that still might happen in the future. So I'm not
Mhm.
going to say that I'm getting out of this. I'm going to have him say, I'm not giving my permission right now, and then she can say, I'm not comfortable because he hasn't given permission. I know I'm a grown adult, but I feel like we need time. And
Right.
and
We're
by the
moving
way,
too
I'm going to be
fast.
shooting a show also.
Right. And I have this show that they're talking about. And I don't want to mess things up between us. So I want to have a little space so that way I can
Mhm.
come back to you. And if it's meant to be, Cody,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
If you love it, let it free.
Right, right. You start quoting them Shakespeare. Like, I don't know. I just don't really see it. Like, I just always had that concern that if things had worked out for her the other way, and it actually worked, like the plan actually worked, came to
Mhm.
fruition, and she would have risen to prominence, or she would have risen to the attention of somebody in Hollywood, because there's always that kind of fantasy that, oh, I'm going to go to Hollywood, or I'm going to get on TV. Some big time producer is going to see me and then want to include me into this big fancy project and want me to be a part of it. And then from there, I'm going to start my stellar movie career. You know, and I'm going to be famous and rich, and people are going to know who I am because they noticed me on this TV show and I look interesting. For those that
Mhm.
don't know, that's not how movies are cast. That's not how movies. No movie has ever been. Well, I won't say no movie has ever been cast since like maybe the golden age of like Hollywood. No movie gets cast that way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, Carol Davis pointed out she would not watch a Robin show. So
Yeah.
this
Right.
is just all hypotheticals, because yes, TLC, as horrible as they are at production, they do understand the basic makeup of a show, and yes, that would be not something anybody would be interested in whatsoever, is
Yeah.
watching Robin hold a show herself. Oh, the worst.
Well, this is 100% why there is no
Yeah.
Robin. Because
Yes.
nobody will watch it. It
Nobody's
would be
gonna.
boring. It'd be terrible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
especially the way she tried to carry herself in the first two seasons, especially
Mhm.
like with trying to play like the victim, and that's one of the things. Like you talk about like victimhood. Like part of the thing that is such a turn off for Robin's character is that everything that happens on the show, she's always the victim, no matter how much she participated in an offense, no matter how culpable she was in some
Mhm.
offense that happened with other cast members. She's
Mhm.
always the one who's suffering in
Mhm.
some kind. Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me, in some kind of way. Cat got my tongue. In some kind of way. She's always the one who's being mistreated, And
Yeah.
nobody, like, it's at a point now, like, where even in the second series, she cried so much in those first two series seasons as I'm watching, going back to rewatch it. When Janelle broke down and cried, it actually meant something
Yes.
because Janelle is not a crier. So when
Right.
she starts crying, I'm like, holy shit, she's really going through it. Robin cries,
Mhm.
it's like, oh, somebody asked her, how you doing? Doing okay. You know, so it doesn't mean
The
anything.
lady at the grocery store was so mean to
Yeah,
me
right,
today. I think it's because I'm a polygamist.
right. And you know what's weird? Like I've never, like if you ever watch somebody cry, like the art of crying on film, one of the things that makes crying on film so challenging is, especially as an actor, is the natural response in real life when you cry, you don't want to cry. Especially you don't want to cry in front of other people. And you certainly don't want to cry in front of the people who hurt you. In fact, there's a weird mixture of sadness and anger when you cry because you're like, I'm crying because I'm sad, but I'm angry that I'm crying, and now I'm crying because I'm angry. So it's a weird, you know. And there's actors who can pull it off. Robin is not that complex with her crying. She just thinks it's a physical reaction, but there's a lot of stuff happening, and part of that is that when you see her cry, she cries and she throws her head back and she lets the world know that she's crying. Whereas most people, when they're crying, they try to hide themselves in shame because they don't want most people to know they're crying. Like, just fun fact, Robin, if you ever watch this, just kind of a tip. Like,
Yeah.
don't start hiding more. And
Yeah.
you have to reveal the cry. You
Yeah.
can't just, oh, I'm crying now. I'm
Yeah.
bathed in tears.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
doesn't work as well.
Yeah. We can tell when you're pushing it out. And also,
Right.
I think society in general, we're starting to get to the point of being over the victimhood of everybody. So for her to claim it over and over and over again, it's just like, what are you, a Gen Zer? Like, come on, get over it, buck up, deal with the fact of whatever tiny little thing that some of the kids that aren't even your kids might possibly not choose polygamy. This is not worth you crying over. The kids you barely know, just stop it already. You are not the victim in every situation. It's not enjoyable to constantly watch a victim. It's just like, stop already. You want to root for a hero. You want things to work out. I mean, it's nice to have a villain every now and then, but victimhood, it gets old. It gets old really quick.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are you crying about? Like, because then what you mentioned, like the whole, I'm crying because I want my kids to experience polygamy.
Mm-hmm.
Most parents, like I take the position that I won't say most parents, I take the position that I don't care what my kids do as far as their dating situation is concerned, who they date, as long as they find somebody that makes them happy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? And supports them in the ways that they need to be supported. It's not really my place to come in and say, you have to like this type of person, that type of person, this, that, certain financial things, or whatever the case, class situation. That's not it. I just want them to be happy. Mm-hmm. And it's weird to me that I want my kids to experience polygamy because that would make me happy. Yes. Wouldn't necessarily make them happy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially in that situation. It hurts. Like, why would you do that to your children?
Yes. Yes. There's nothing that I went through in life that was miserable that I wish on my children. I don't get it.
Right.
I don't get it.
Right. I learned a lot from that bad experience I had. I wish that they would go through something similar. No, if anything, you'll go through a bad experience and then you'll talk to your kids about said bad experience and what you learned from it. Mm-hmm. And you'll try to prevent them from experiencing that bad experience, but you want them to have all the benefit of your knowledge and wisdom from said bad experience. It's a completely different dynamic, I think. But I don't know whether it's just something that's foreign to them because it makes too much sense or what the situation is. Yeah, but that's just where I'm at. Like I wouldn't, I want you. Especially here's the part that kind of trips me out. You want your kids, and this is I'm really not taking a shot. This is gonna sound like a shot, but I'm really trying not to take a shot at Robin's kids. But you want your kids, those two young ladies, to be in a polygamous relationship with a man when you know from your personal experience, when you have people who are inexperienced
Mm.
getting married and then having somebody who is more experienced and more of the world coming into that relationship as competition to those more sheltered individuals, how those folks make out, you
Mm.
know they don't do well. You know they don't do well. So
Yeah.
you putting your girls out there, you sheltered them and you hid them back from the world, and there's a lot of things that they didn't experience because you wanted to keep them pure and their purity in check. There are women out there whose purity is not in check, and they will work these women, these young girls. They will work their husbands like a part-time job. They will turn them dudes out, and they're gonna be in trouble. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know
Absolutely.
why you would do that.
Well, you went silent again.
Okay.
Oh,
Hello?
you're
Yeah, I think I'm.
there. You are. I hear you. I
I'm
hear
up.
you. You're up.
Okay. Yeah. Someone said no problem. I think she has a medical background. Someone said with this Lori Carezza. No, it's oh wait. Oh, Mama Celeste. No, Robin has a mental background.
Yeah.
Very clever. Very clever.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's not a chapter we can read in this book that we can't go back and talk about Robin.
Yeah, yeah.
I tell you, she's the
Because
gift
she's
that keeps on giving.
yeah, because she actually is so. The ironic part is that with as much effort as she put in to make herself the hero of the story, she actually turns herself into the villain
Mm-hmm.
by nature of the positioning that she takes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weirdest. It's the weirdest backfire ever. Like
Yeah.
every time she tries to do something like this is why I'm such a caring woman. It was like that's terrible. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Because she
psycho.
always couches it in being a victim. I'm such a
Right,
wonderful woman. Why does everybody hate me? It's like, oh, again, stop.
right. Let everybody else say that. Oh wow, why are they being so mean to you? As
Right.
opposed to you saying
Yes.
everybody's so mean to me. Like that's the
Oh,
weird part about
yes. I completely agree. Yeah, she's got to say it about herself because nobody else is saying it about her. Oh, you're
it. Yeah,
quiet
it's
again. Oh, there you go. You're back. You're back. You're back.
yeah. Well, because the weird part is that you have like her saying that and complaining about how these women aren't taking her, and that actually shows like the disconnect that she has because when she says these women don't appreciate me, they don't treat me fairly. They treat me like I'm an outsider. They treat me like I'm interfering with the family, etc., etc., etc. The truth of
Yeah.
the matter is, for these women, you are doing those things. You
Mm-hmm.
disrupted their lives. You changed their situation. So yeah, they're going to feel a certain kind of way about it. And it's not that they dislike you or they hate you. It's just the fact that you're messing their stuff up. You're messing
Yeah.
their stuff up. So they things were going a certain way. Everything was kind of where it was. Then all of a sudden, here you come and you disrupted all of that. And you
Mm-hmm.
changed a lot of the fundamental function of the family. And
Mm-hmm.
then you're saying that they should accept the fact that you changed the fundamental function of the family. And why are they mad about that when they should just be okay with it? But no, they're
Mm-hmm.
not okay with it, and they have reasons for why they're not okay with it. And I think
Right.
she would have. And this is like from season one. She actually would have went a lot further had she acknowledged, like, I recognize the fact that I came in and I upset the apple cart, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing everything I can to try to make everybody else feel more normalized as we move forward. That would
Yeah.
have done a lot more than, oh, I'm such a victim because even though I came in and threw a bomb in these people's lives and blew their lives up, I don't understand why they're mad because we're picking up the pieces together. Like you
Mm-hmm.
still blew their lives up. It doesn't matter that you're supposedly trying to heal everything. You're not trying to. the bigger part of that is you're not trying to heal the family as much as you're trying to build a relationship with Cody, which is
Mm,
completely different, you know.
yeah, 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 yeah. She just has a complete lack of understanding of relationships and what to do.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, goodness. Well, I don't have anything else
Yeah.
on this chapter. Do you?
No, that's me too. That's it. That's all I had. You know, we rocked it
That was
out.
pretty.
Everybody hung
That's,
in there with us. I appreciate that. Oh, but before we go, I want to make sure I give a big shout out to our mods. I had Rochelle J. She was in here earlier. She left out, so I want to thank her. You
mhm,
know, she's out. Of course, we got Lizzie B in the house. J Baby's here as well. Happy birthday, Jay.
mhm.
We have Lori Carrad and Lynn
Yes,
Skinner. Uh, did you have
yes.
anybody else? I didn't,
Yeah, Lori Carrad and Lynn Skinner. That's it. Yep.
okay. Yeah, because I just want to make sure we got everybody. Thank you guys so much for
Thank you,
helping out,
girls.
moderating for us, keeping the chat in line and in order.
Yes.
But
Thank
usually, in fairness to the chat, you guys are awesome. You guys rock. I appreciate the chat. You guys staying positive and not being,
Absolutely.
nasty and negative. Because you go to some boards, it's chat room is like the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's trying to tear everybody down and stuff, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just not a fun place to be. So I
No.
appreciate everybody keeping it positive.
Yeah, these are great people.
Um, yeah. So did you have anything else that you wanted to say in closing?
Nope, I don't have anything else. I'll be back here on Thursday, as we will complete the epilogue and get some words from Cody, words of wisdom from Cody,
Yeah.
and finish up our book. And I'm looking into ideas for putting another video together right now. So that's where we
Okay.
are. Last week I took a week off because I was just really busy with my other job.
Oh, awesome. Well, busy is good. Sometimes it's good
Yeah.
to be busy. Keeps you out of
Yeah.
trouble.
That's true. I'm not
Keeps you
getting
out of
in any
trouble.
trouble.
Right.
It's like a
But
youth group. It's youth group for adults.
exactly.
It's called work.
Right, exactly. Because they know now you have resources. They got to keep you more busy. Yeah.
That's right.
If you're young, you're probably young and poor like the rest of us. So you're like, my parents have money, but I don't have anything. So
Mm-hmm.
there's only
Mm-hmm.
so much trouble I can get into. I'm limited financially.
That's right. So true.
So my
What do you
mayhem
have
is
coming
packed.
up
My
this
mayhem
week?
budget. This week I am releasing videos. I'm doing some shorter videos. I have my sound system up, so I'll be able to cut those videos. And because I've been testing on my, because I tape on a different thing, so it was kind of wonky. But I'm back now, baby. So I'll be releasing some shorter videos for those who like the shorter, 5-10 minute videos. I'll be putting those out this week, and I'm also rolling out my family law channel, my family court channel. So check that out. It's gonna be awesome. I'll drop some links in that, and then of course I have family lives tomorrow. Or sister lives, family lives. Sister
Yes.
lives. So sad. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Oh, actually, now that I realize it, I do believe, if memory serves me correctly, because again, this past week has sort of been a little bit of a blur, but I'm pretty sure this Monday night is going to be the Welcome to Plathville season premiere, and I am covering Welcome to Plathville. So that's on my other channel,
Okay.
which is Reality TV Breakdown. So sometime this week, I'll get a review out on that. So anyone following Welcome to Plathville, jump over to Reality TV Breakdown. I'll have a link down below in the description if you can't find it, but you should be able to hunt it down,
Awesome.
and we can follow Welcome to Plathville throughout the summer.
Yeah, because actually Rochelle J, she follows that. So
Does she?
she might be
All
yeah,
right.
so she might be hanging it up.
Good.
So there you go. All right.
Watch those videos. We will
All right.
discuss
The craziness. The cultist craziness of Plathville.
Yes.
All right,
Right.
guys.
Thank you,
All right, guys,
everybody.
that's my take. Right, exactly. I'm James from My Take on Reality, and
I'm Jenny from Senior Perspective.
thank you guys so much for hanging out. We appreciate you. You guys have a great night. Make sure you tip your waitresses on the way out. I'll see you later. Thanks. Oh yeah,
Bye,
make sure you
everyone.
hit the subscribe button and the like button. Help a brother out. Help a sister out. All
Yes.
right. Have a great night, guys.
Bye bye.